Hey guys, welcome to the light stand. And y'all don't even know, man. Y'all about to get slapped with the spirit
Come on,
up in
man.
this place. It's gonna be awesome, man. We have a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts. It is worship, alabanza, worshiping God. Why we do it, how we do it, why it's powerful, why God designed it, the whole shebang. And we have some spiritual warriorettes in the house. Back with us again is Abby.
Hi.
And then here for the first time on the light stand, we have my sisters from another mister,
Yeah.
but from the same father, like spiritual father.
absolutely.
Spiritual father. Yeah, that's right.
You know, we have Lily
Hello, everyone.
and we have Rocio.
Hello.
Rocio Chavez, Lily Chavez. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
How was y'all's week today?
Deep breath. It was good. It was good.
By the way, today's Sunday,
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
after church.
Yep.
And we worshipped our butts off today.
Naps have been taken.
Naps.
Have
Very
been taken.
essential naps.
Food
have
has
taken.
been eaten.
Dude, Sunday naps just hit
The
different.
best, dude. The best.
When you wake up and you're
true.
30 something and you think you're late for school. Bro,
Hay algo mal.
you
Where
went
am
to
I?
the multiverse and back. And there's babas on your, pillow and those
a good nap.
are naps, bro.
That's a good nap.
Those
The
are-
slumber.
Like, have you guys ever taken, and then like you still wake up from the nap and then you walk through your house confused?
You're like, what's going on right
Where
Yeah,
am I?
now? How old am I?
confused.
Where's
Like,
the bathroom?
yeah, like you're awake,
But like,
But
not
not
really.
really.
but you're just kind of thinking
Yeah.
about life.
I mean, imagine how Lazarus felt, though.
Oh my
Contemplating.
gosh.
Yo,
You're so right.
we're already going there. We
We're
already
already going there.
guys.
Wait, I have to share a meme though because it's on the topic of naps.
Yeah.
It says that I saw a meme somewhere on like Instagram or something. How terrifying it is to being like a toddler or like a baby that naps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you sleep at your house and then you wake up at Target.
Yo, that's
Or vice
true.
versa.
Yeah, exactly. You fall asleep at Target and you're like, how did I
Where
end
did I
up
get
at
in my
home?
house?
How am I in my crib right now?
Why am I in the frozen food section?
Yeah,
Poor things. Imagine, like,
Yeah.
as an adult, if that happened to you, you're like, how did I end up here?
yeah.
Why am I at Target?
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good
I thought it
laugh.
was the funniest thing ever.
No, that's true. Or like when you fall asleep when you're a kid, like a sub 10 kid, and then you fall asleep in the car, and then you teleport into your
Into
bed
your room. Yeah.
at night.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just like, oh, I close my eyes and I'm in my room now.
Without my shoes.
Uh-huh.
But you wake up like several hours later and the sun has gone down and you're like, what the?
Yeah.
What time is it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's the best, man.
That's great.
That's funny.
So, anyways, I just had to interject with the Sunday nap thing.
So,
But back
in other
to-
words, the naps were great.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to
Naps
say.
are good.
We're trying to say that they're amazing.
Yeah.
And your body needs them. So, but how was your all's week?
Good. Mine was good. I'm a little bit transitioning because I got a new job. So I go in really early. And I'm learning how to take naps because I'm not a big napper. So, all you non-nappers out there,
Yeah.
I understand.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm just getting used to that transition, but it was pretty good.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm. Yeah, so my week was good too. I felt like I was on the right track, like preparing for today, right? I wanted to come in prepared or whatever. And I don't know, like I feel like I'm in a season right now. This particular month, I have several things going on, so I'm like, dang Lord, this is a lot. Like I feel just very soft, very raw, very like, okay, you want me to prep for this? And on the way here, I'm like bawling my eyes out. Like, I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good. It was just a very good few days of like making sure my heart and my mind were in the right place. So good all the way around.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, actually, I gotta say, mine has been kind of similar to that. In a sense of like I was also preparing for this, but I think for the past few weeks, I've also been, I guess, just contemplating worship and contemplating how I worship and where my heart is in worship, because this upcoming weekend is our church's youth conference where I'm gonna be singing, and I always get super nervous for conference, like leading up to it, and so I've just been like mentally, emotionally, spiritually preparing myself. Grounding. Yeah,
very good.
Preparing myself for it, because I love it. Like I love the youth conference every year, and it's so exciting, and like the presence of God is just always there, and it's always good, and I just always want to like go in prepared, like, you know, surrendering everything, making sure that whatever comes out of my worship is like not for me. It's whatever God wants to say, whatever He wants to say through me. And so, yeah, I've just been the same way. I was also, we were just talking about that like we were all on our way here driving, and I was praying, and I was like thanking God, and I was like, God, you're so good, and I'm just so thankful for you in worship. And like, when I parked in front of your house, I was like fixing my under eyes because like I was crying, and then I was like blowing my nose, and I look over and I see Lily and Chio. And she was like, were you crying too? And I'm like, yeah, I was definitely crying.
That's awesome.
Hot mess, yeah.
Hot mess. In a good way.
So what I heard was a young woman who has been a praise and worship leader for quite a long time, since you were teeny tiny, I would say, takes it seriously, takes it to heart, and puts her flesh, her body, her whole life on the cross with Jesus, and says, here I am. In preparation, because you know what it costs, you know how important it is.
Yeah.
So that's what I heard.
Are you already crying?
No, I love that, because I think it's so easy to distance yourself from someone that's on stage, you know?
Ooh,
me coming in, you know, new to VJ or whoever, right? Just sitting there and like, well, of course God's here, they're perfect. Or, oh, well, she's been singing for years, she's super talented. Of course, you know, everybody's gonna feel the presence of the Lord in the room. Nothing. There's preparation.
Or is it the presence of the Lord, or is she just amazing at her talent?
Or is it a concert?
Like, are you really worshiping up there, or are you putting on a show?
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's not what it's about.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
And also I would say testing that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
I would say like maybe challenging people who crave a concert to go a little deeper and say like, why do you want some kind of performance, or like, why do you feel like you're entitled, or like walking into a space where the Lord's going to show up, because he's going to show up. And you want like flashy lights, or like a certain type of person, the way they're dressed, or etc. Like, why, like, who has told you that that's what worship is? When worship looks so differently, and it doesn't necessarily require a stage or people dressed up really nicely. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I would challenge just the audience. I'm not going to get into worship leaders, because I'm not a worship leader, but yeah.
Definitely a worshiper, though.
I'm a worshiper. Everyone's a worshiper.
Yeah.
I hope they know that.
I guess just going into that, but like flipping the roles as well. As a worship leader, I would say that like I am guilty of falling into the I'm going to sing my best today because I want to be a good singer, and I want to show off my voice, and I want to, you know, give what I got, but not really taking into account my heart and the heart that God has given me for worship. That like now, after many years of worship and like nights of just crying and praising in my room, like have shown me that like that is not what it is. And you know, and I think maybe some people from the congregation can fall into that that idea of, oh, worship is a concert, because maybe that's the idea that the worship leader has been putting out. And I think I am the first one to raise my hand and say that I am guilty of that I have fallen into that some weeks, like some Sundays where I'm not really taking into account the congregation or just the whole reason of why do we worship? Why is worship the first thing that happens in a Sunday service. And like that's, you know, I think it was just kind of my ignorance and like not really knowing what worship was, just knowing that like, oh, okay, like I can sing and now I'm gonna sing on a Sunday, like cool. But yeah, I think it's been a process to discover really what worship is and what it is to not just me, but like I said, the whole congregation, what it is to the leaders of the church, what it is to leaders of ministries, what it is to the new person who just walked in. And it's very beautiful, and I think it's something so complex, and so like I'm really passionate to be talking about it.
Oh yeah,
today
dude.
with you guys.
Heck yeah.
I love that.
I think we're all passionate here, and that's why you guys are here, is because in order to even put this together, you know, it was really important for Natalie and I to know that you guys, that whoever was going to come is passionate about worship and about God, you know, and that it's really like you could just tell, I think, you know what I mean? So, you know, after some, you know, putting some names on a paper or whatever, figuratively, you guys are here, dude, and like I love seeing all the three of you, the way you worship and how like entregados you are. What's
surrendered.
Surrendered. Yeah, it gets to a point where like, yeah, there's a craft to kind of maintain, but more than anything is your heart over the craft, and you can tell. But before we dive in too deep,
I was gonna say there was a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack, guys, and I'm telling y'all, throw your seatbelts on.
Man.
But before we, you know, dive too deep, let's kind of, I want to kind of dive into why you guys are passionate in the first place. Okay. I want to dive into kind of your background. Like, how do you go from like, right now, we're all passionate for worship, and we know why we do it and how we do it and everything. But let's rewind the clock to, how did you even meet God? How did you come to like love Jesus? And then from that point, how did you get into worship? What called you to the worship? And we'll go from there.
Cool.
Okay. So you said, how did you meet God? How did you come to be like a worshiper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're not born Christians.
Right.
We're born again Christians, but you know, when you come into earth, you're not like, God, I love you, you know? So how did y'all get to that point of like, oh, hi God. And then, oh, Jesus, I love you. And here's my heart.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, who wants to go first?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Chio.
Oh, okay. Everyone's staring at me. That's peer pressure, guys. I'm just kidding. That's a hard question. Okay. I accepted the Lord as my savior when I was 19. So I was a freshman in college. I come from a very like Hispanic Catholic background. We weren't super Catholic, but like just kind of like, oh, Easter, Christmas, you know, wannabe Catholics, I guess. I don't know what you call that. Yeah, I started dancing at 13. I've always loved dancing. There's pictures of me when I'm 3 dancing to Maria Mercedes. I don't know if all of you Hispanic people out there know what that is. It was a show that was out, and I love the song to it. So like, there's pictures of me as like a 3 or 4 year old dancing. And I've always loved it. I've always loved movement. And that's the first thing that we learn as babies is we learn how to crawl. We learn our hands, we learn our feet. So we're all movers. I'm a big believer in like everyone is a mover, and we just there's a lot of things that have muted us to not be that in the world and society and stuff, but that's a whole nother topic. I'll go down a wormhole, so I'm not gonna go there. Anyways, so yeah, I started dancing at 13, and I've always loved it. I studied it in college. So the Lord met me at 19 through 2 other worship people at the time. One of them was kind of like my friend / mentor. And I met her in college. And then I had a friend from high school. We were both like band geeks. And we went to drum major camp together. And both of them kind of pulled me to like the youth group. And I was like, no, I'm good, thanks. Like, I don't need God. I'm perfect. I'm good. Like, I was very much a perfectionist. I'm like, I don't need help. I don't, And yeah, the Lord was super gracious and loving, and he saved me at 19. So it's a very like interesting age because you're still growing up, but like the world's kind of like, what are you going to do with your life? Right. So I was doing 2 majors, science or art, like a BFA in dance. And I started praying as a little baby Christian, like, well, which one should I study? And God's like, choose the dance one. Like, do dance. And I'm like, are you sure? Our program wasn't that great at the time. It's a lot better now. So yeah, that has always been something that I've loved and that I'm passionate. Like you said, we're all passionate people here. And it just kind of like developed. I got my bachelor's in it, and I never really got a job within my degree, but I always somehow could use it, whether it was inside the church, outside the church, a way of connecting to somebody, like a conversation starter. And they were like, oh, like, you're a Christian, but you're a dancer? Like, how does that work? Unfortunately, it's not talked about a lot. At least I haven't heard it in like a generalized concept within the church of like, there's some churches that do practice, right, arts and acting and dancing as a worship, it's a worship. King David danced in his underwear, just saying.
There's Bible for it.
There is Bible for it. So yeah, I never saw it. I never saw the gift God gave me. I never saw it as a gift, first of all. I was like, oh, I'm just like, that's a talent that I have. And then as my relationship with the Lord matured and it got cultivated, I decided to cultivate it actively. I came to this like, kind of like a fork in the road where I knew that movement could connect me to God and that the Holy Spirit could be present in my movement. And it was like a really big, like, I guess like mind blown, like epiphany type of thing, like the light bulb turned on. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, how have I not done this for him the whole time? And yeah, it took me to like a different level of knowing that we all have talents and gifts and they don't necessarily have to look like art. I love making coffee in the morning. I love French press, and it's a whole process of like, it takes you 8 minutes to make it, but like the whole process slows me down enough to like realize that God is in me making coffee. Like, yeah, there's very like little everyday things where God's shown me that it's worship and it's not necessarily like a big obvious thing like a stage.
Let me drop a real quick pin here. Natalie and I have had the blessing, capital B, to taste Rocio's coffee. And I pray, if you're listening, that one day, somehow, you have the opportunity to meet Gio.
That's hilarious.
And get a cup of that coffee. Holy moly.
Yeah, that's
anyways.
Good.
Yeah, so...
Yes, it does come from heaven.
I think I answered both questions there. Yep. I tried to as much as I could, like in a short, compressed manner, but...
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually just want to add a little thing there. I want to say 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure it was either the conference right before or right after COVID. I think it was right after, like, everybody kind of said it coming out of their houses. But I was in the back of our, like the auditorium where the women's conference is being held. And it opened up with a dance that she was in and had choreographed. And I remember like the energy it was. I mean, you know how it is for conference, right? Anybody that's never gone to a Christian conference, it gets crazy. Okay? Like, I don't care if it's women, men, youth, people be running, fighting over seats.
Yeah.
It's chaos. It's organized chaos, I guess.
Yeah.
And everyone was just buzzy with anticipation. Everybody was loud. There was a lot of tiny conversations going on. It's a big auditorium and lots of people. And as soon as the spotlight turns on and the music starts, people's attention gets grabbed. And as soon as the choreography started, I just felt this wave of like almost a peace coming through the place. And I remembered, right? Because, you know, Rocio's my sister. I remembered like that young little 13, 15-year-old going to hip hop classes. And I remembered, you know, all of the late nights and the auditions and the stage managing and the, you know, because art school's crazy. I don't care what school you go to.
Bloody toes.
It's hard. And I was just like, wow. Like anybody that tells you that that is not a form of worship has not slowed down enough and regulated their body enough to really pay attention and feel how God can speak to you through a song, through a movement, through a painting, through
a donkey,
the flowers. The flowers outside, the clouds, the sunset, you know?
Bird.
But I just remember that right now as she was talking, I was like, that is absolutely true. Most people take so many of the little details for granted. And I feel like that brings me back to where I want to start, which was wonder. That little curiosity of, you know, like that little kid curiosity of like, I wonder what this switch does. You know, like it's playful, it's in the details, right?
It's
maybe
innocent.
Exactly. Like those little tiny tots that are just kind of rolling around in the ground or on the carpet, and it's like the tiniest little speck of whatever, and they're like, but I need to grab it. Right? Like that type of curiosity and wonder, I think that's essential to being able to foster a life and a heart of a worshiper, and that's been my personal experience. I am very analytical by nature. And I think it's a nature I developed out of need. So when I find the Lord, truly, truly start fostering a relationship with him, I was in my late 20s. And I was miserable. It was probably one of the worst days of my life. But I went to a specific program that now my current church has. And it was a very depressive era in my life. So that's kind of where I started, you know, very apathetic, very numb, very used to everything out there, you know. Out there as in like I had traveled, I, you know, had the job and I went here and did things and I knew people and, you know, business, work and everything. I just feel like anybody could look at me and like, well, you have this job, you have this, you know, you have this going for you, you have that going for you. But I was completely numb. So I think that wonder for me was essential. If the Lord hadn't met me right where I was, all numb and apathetic and angry, the wonder is what he brought into my life as I accepted and surrendered. I accepted him, but I had to surrender my will, not just my life. And that was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done because I needed control and I needed to feel like I was in control, even though I wasn't, just to be able to get through the day. My anxiety, all those things were just so terrible that was the only thing that made me feel, you know, kind of like, okay, the world's not coming to a collapse. So that little spark of wonder is what led me to start a relationship with God, to actually see him everywhere, to actually see him as in like the kindness that other people could give to me when I was being unkind. The love that a parent has for a kid. I used to actually not like kids very much. It took some softening of my heart. And that's what kind of led me down that path of softening my heart, was that wonder. I wonder who I can be without all of this bitterness and anger and apathy. And it took every ounce of my courage to hand all that over. So that's how I found him in my late 20s, an absolute mess, hit rock bottom in a lot of places. That's another podcast for another day. But that little spark led to just a softening of my heart. And then Abby, one day, I showed up to a meeting at church. I was on another team serving because I'm analytical. Let's go help in that ministry over there where I'm in a little corner office, you know, all hidden from everybody, antisocial. And let's help them organize stuff. I'm good at that. Let's organize stuff. So that's what I did. And I was there for like this little meeting, some new software we were rolling out. And I was like, okay. And I was like, Abby, why are you here? Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, I'm here for rehearsal for the worship team. And I'm all, oh, can I listen?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. So I show up and I'm like, oh, these guys are awesome, right? And I think that's why I mentioned it. It's easy to separate yourself from the people on stage, right? Because I was like, whoa, these voices and these people.
Do you remember how old I was? I think it was maybe like...
I think you were a sophomore.
Yeah? Maybe I was like 15-ish age. Probably around there.
I would say 16 max.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Mm-hmm. So I show up for this worship. They're just literally doing, vocal warm-ups. And I'm like, this is great. And the worship leader's like, have a seat, So I had a seat. It was great. I enjoyed it. And then it finishes. And one of the lead singers stands up and she's like, all right, today's audition day. And I'm like, what do you mean it's audition day? And then my introvert quickly stands up and tries to make a beeline for the door. And she comes at me and she's like, hey, you're here with Abby? You're Rocio's sister. Oh, okay. She's like, are you here to audition? And I was like, no, I'm leaving. I have a meeting at 7. And she's like, oh, you can go first. And then I was escorted to the audition room where I quickly proceeded to shut down and paralyze and not be able to do a thing.
Yeah.
I come out of the audition room and Abby was like, you're kind of pale there.
You need to sit down or you good?
You need some water?
Yeah. Needless to say, I froze. I feel like I'm just an introvert that learned how to survive. That's what my personality is. But yeah, I was able to follow the key on the guitar and on the keyboard, and they said, okay, like we know enough to know you can keep coming. And that was my audition. That's how I started on the worship team. So that in itself was a blessing, just because it gave me this sense of responsibility, because I am not a person that likes to be seen. I'm not a person that likes to be on stage. I think that's probably one of my biggest fights with my vocal coach sitting right next to me right now. is let the voice out. Let's hear it. Let's let it be heard. But that curiosity literally led me to, finding the Lord, going to an audition, taking lessons with Abby when she was a little high schooler, but
Lily was my first student.
And she was still schooling me. It felt like an ab workout every time I went. I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Like, right, Art?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that is how I met the Lord. And that's how I got on the worship team. And I think that started the domino of becoming a worshiper, because I can't say, oh, I'm this. No, I feel like the best honor and gratefulness I can say to the Lord is I am here and I am willing to continue to be the student that I need to be to fulfill, whatever purpose you have for my life.
Wow.
So, and I'm still there, and I will be there until my tombstone says, construction ended. Thank you for your patience.
Let's go.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm 21 now. When I first started in the worship team, I was 13. I was 13 when I first started going to those practices and stuff. But I don't think at that point I had already accepted Christ. I've grown up in church my whole life. I accepted Christ for the first time when I was in like 5th grade, and then I made the prayer again like twice or 3 times in like middle school. And yeah, I grew up in church. I grew up always loving the worship, like watching it, being in the congregation. I always loved worship. It was one of my favorite parts of church. And so yeah, I started in the worship team when I was like 13. I was like really, really young. And I was going to those practices for at least maybe 2 years before they even let me sing on a platform. Which at the time I was, young and like frustrated of like, I'm going to these practices, like I'm doing good, like why aren't they letting me? And obviously now 21 Abby is like, because you were 13. Like there's no reason why you should have been on the platform at 13.
You're like,
Oh, that's fine.
Got it.
I see how things work now.
I see how it works now. Okay. But how I came to love God is another thing. So I was already in worship. At this point, I'm like 15. And when I turned 15, I fell into a really dark place. And I went through a very depressive episode for several months, almost a whole year. And I think that where I think, like, looking back at it now, I think God really wanted to show me how much I need him and how much I'm like literally nothing without him. And so actually Rocio, at the time I was 15 and I was going to Rocio's Bible study. We had like a group of high school girls and Rocio was the leader at that time. And I texted her. I was like, hey, can we go for coffee? And she's like, yeah, sure. And every fiber in my being was like, you can't tell anyone you're going through this. Like, you can't tell anyone you're depressed because you're in the worship team and people are looking at you and you have an example to set. And like, nobody's going to look at you the same. Like, if someone finds out that you're depressed, they're going to take you off the team, or they're just going to look at you differently, or they're going to think that you're not good enough, you know? And that these were all the things that I was telling myself, or that the enemy was telling me. But in the very, very back of my head, one day when I was in my room and I was completely a mess, I had been listening to these voices for like months of like, you know, you're not worth it. You're gonna be like disowned by everyone if anyone finds out. But I remember one day, in my room, all depressed, I recognized this one voice in the back of my head. And like I said, I've been listening to these other things in my mind for several months. And it was just at the point where I was just like, I can say that was like rock bottom for me. And like this new voice appeared. And I was like, I don't recognize this voice. And all it said was just tell someone. Like, just tell someone. That's it. That's all I heard. And like, it kept resonating with me for the next few weeks. And I was like, well, I can't tell anyone this, you know, like, again, listening to these other voices. So anyways, I set up the date to go meet with Chio. And I remember like, I sat down and we were talking, we were having coffee, and it just could not leave my body. Like, I could not tell you for the life of me. Like, I would open my mouth and nothing would come out. And I can now look back and see how, like, the enemy had, like, such a hold on me. And he didn't want me to tell anyone. He wanted me to stay suppressed. He wanted me to stay down because he knew what I had to offer the Lord, you know? And so anyways, I tell Rocio, and Rocio, like, gave me the response that I needed to hear, which was like, I don't see you any differently. You're still the same Abby that I knew 15 minutes ago before you told me anything. And like, we're going to get through this. And honestly, it was, Gio would text me like every day. Like after that, she'd just checking up, like, how are you doing? And honestly, it was Rocio's texts sometimes that would get me out of bed in the morning. That would like motivate me to be like, okay, maybe there's an end to this. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's something that's going to come from this. So another year goes by, and there's a lot of healing, a lot of restoration, a lot of work. My gosh.
Yeah.
But
mighty work
for sure. And so that the reason I came to love God is because he took me from that place that was so dark, so suppressive, so just flat out evil and sad and angry too. And he turned it into like overflowing joy and happiness and peace. And that's how I came to love God, because the next year after I came out of my depression was like one of the best years of my life when it came to worship. Because then I feel like I had a reason to worship. Like before, I worshipped because I saw people on stage and I liked the music and I liked their voices and I wanted to be a part of it because it was something enjoyable to me. But I came to truly worship when I realized that we are nothing without God. And what can we do but pour out our hearts to Him? Because that's all we have to offer. And there's nothing in this world that could ever give me the joy and peace that the Lord does. When I worship, when I don't worship. Like, that's how I came to love God. To love God. And I came to truly worship because of that. And a lot of things after that, because I was barely 15. Like, I still had to finish high school. You know? And so growing up too, like after that, 16, 17, 18, entering into college, like the Lord has taken me through lots and lots and lots of different processes where I've just been discovering God's love more and more, and His mercy more and more, and His power more and more, for sure.
So I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable, first of all. I think it's very powerful for everyone that sees you on that stage Sunday in and Sunday out, and at those youth conferences and at the, you know, the little adolescent conference you did last month. And again, it's easy to separate. Oh, she's on the platform. She must not struggle. She must not, you know. So I think that number one, thank you again, because that sheds light into even the worshipers, even the worship team, even the drummer that's killing it, even that voice, even, you know, everyone has something going on. Yeah. And I think that as lovers of Jesus, we are called to love people. We are called to love ourselves so well and love our Lord so well that everything we pour out is love. And that's so hard to live that way. Yeah. You know? So, thank you. That is very sobering. It is very honest. And I think that there's very few people that can really say, you know, I can be transparent about this. I can be honest. So, yeah. And then secondly, I love how you pointed out the way you felt. If you actually did what was the hard thing to do, which was step out of the darkness and be seen, all of you, fully. Yeah. Right? I think that is a very brave step. And it's something that I think every single person that believes in the Lord has felt the inclination to do. Some of us maybe have done the work to actually do it, and others maybe, you know, there's some reservation, right? Everyone has a different story. So there's different things that we're all afraid of exposing. Yeah. And I think it's very easy sometimes to even get church famous. Ooh, and then think that your value as a person comes from your performance when it's not.
No, not at all.
Right?
Yo. Totally right. Totally
because that is easy to do. You know, I feel like, again, it's easy to separate yourself and say, oh, well, that's them. Right? So again, it's heavy and it's beautiful, and I honor it, and thank you for sharing it, because I don't care if it's a pastor, if it's a worship leader, if it's someone that loves to do harmonies on stage and just go up there, you know, and sing their little heart out. Yeah. I'm talking about me. I love to do harmonies. That's my thing.
I thought you were talking about me.
And you. Yeah. But yeah, I think that it's really easy for us to say, as long as I'm useful, as long as I can be active and actually be of use, that's enough. It's really not. Don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle, because there's again, keep the wonder of a little baby that's like, what is that? Right? Keep the wonder, keep the childlike wonder to say, can I live more fully? Can I enjoy God's presence even better? Can I be of more impact by looking inward a little bit and saying, what is going to happen if, in your example, step out and say, I'm struggling with depression and I need help.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure everyone's got one thing. I know I've struggled with depression. I've struggled with a lot of things. And being honest is what kept me alive sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for that. I think that's very important.
One thing that you pointed out when you were saying that, you said, like, sorry, like, I'm gathering my thoughts.
The value thing?
Yeah, the value thing, where I think for a long time I didn't really know what worship was, I guess, just in general. I think that I was putting a lot of value on being a worship leader and being on a platform and being in front of a congregation. And I remember at one point, like, truly believing, like, my identity is, like, a worship leader. Like, my identity is being a worship leader, and this is what I'm on this earth to do. I'm called to be a worship leader. And the Lord also took me through a process where it was like, no, sweetie, your identity is not a worship leader. You're first my child. You're first my daughter.
That's right. And
then other things.
And then you're so much more too.
And now my worship has been forever changed because of that. Because of realizing, like, I don't have to be on a platform. Heck, the Lord has wrecked me so many times at my house, in my room, in the car, at a random restaurant, like
at a stoplight.
At a stoplight, literally walking
on a walk. Look at the tree. Why am I crying?
Look at the cloud. Oh my God, the cloud is making me cry.
Yeah.
You know. And I think my identity was based on that, of, like, I'm a worship leader.
And but, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to say, it kind of sounds to me like no one really prepared you for what it's like to be under that light and to have you as a person on an Instagram page.
Right, yeah.
On a flyer for a youth conference. And then start to attach your performance to your value. But really, that's just a snapshot of a worship moment that's now being used maybe more as like a brand management. But your value does not equate to just that. There's so much more, right? And I think that there is a danger there of putting someone that doesn't have the grounding, the foundations of who they are, of who they're made by, of what they've been called and destined to be, and allowing something great, something good, maybe? Yeah, something good, great. A worshiper that's stuck just being in a specific maybe role when they are called to do so much more. You know, maybe they're called to do something else. But so I think that's important. I think it's important. I love the perspective, right? Because you're significantly younger than all three of us. And I think it's important that there are those that are older than us to impart that wisdom. To be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. And although it is good, is it what's right? Is it God's calling? Is it right? So that grounding and that foundational relationship with the Lord, to know when you have his blessing and when your no is a no of submission, even though it hurts because you like it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's the danger of not coaching someone up, of not having that good discipleship to be like, all right, let's make a wise choice, not just the one that feels great.
And I think it took the Lord literally, like, bringing to light and, like, telling me, if I were to cut your vocal cords, just clip them tonight, and the next day you don't wake up with a voice, like, what are you? What are you left with?
I was about to say that. So to piggyback off of that, I always have used that in, my brain works reverse. So, like, God's done the same thing to me. Like, if literally all the labels that you carry and all the hats that you carry were taken away, what are you left with?
Who are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a daughter or you're a son. So then what is that? What does that mean? Like,
what does that entail? What does that come with?
Right. And it means that, like, it's so simple and we make it so complex. Humans make things so complicated sometimes. I'm like, it's so simple. Because God literally is just like, you're a daughter, you're a son. Like, all I want is your heart. And sometimes if you have not cultivated a relationship with the Lord, where it's not performance, where it's not who you are, what you're doing, like, even in a simple, like, societal setting of, like, let's go to, like, a meeting at work, or let's go to school. Like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, so what do you study? Oh,
Not
so
who
what's
are
your
you.
line of work?
Not who are you.
That's just society. I'm not
Yeah.
even talking like your label at church or where you serve in your ministry, whatever. Like whatever label you want to take on. If it was stripped away, because the Lord gives and the Lord takes
Yeah,
away,
he
right?
does.
We love using that Bible, but it's like, what if it really happened?
What if he did take away?
What if he did strip away everything? Then what? What are you left with?
Mm-hmm.
If he jobed you.
Yeah.
If he joked you, yeah. Would you still would you have a cultivated relationship to where you're like, I can still give you my heart, even if it's broken, even if it's right, I'm going through grief, or I don't know who I am. You stripped all of my identity away because I didn't know who I was.
Truly.
Truly.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll on purpose take away what you think was your identity so that you can realize, oh snap,
Yeah.
that wasn't
That
it
wasn't
at
it.
all.
That's not all of me.
Yeah, that's not all of me. When God has something to teach you, he gonna teach you, whether you like it or not. And the way, so it's better to just get close to him and so that he teaches you the nice way versus he pharaohs you and sends 10 plagues at your house till you could finally soften your heart for him. Like do the will.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
I say a tentative yes to that. Tentative because I want to challenge the idea of a cruel God.
Mm.
I was
Because
about to say
they're-
the same thing.
Thank you.
I'm going to look for a quote.
I believe that there is scripture, and I'm pretty sure I'd have to look for it to show that, and that there is scripture that says, and God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yep.
Right? I feel like there is in set order to things. God has beautiful order in so many things. I mean, we could study whatever, animals, plants, the ecosystem, anything. And I feel like the more I learn, the more of God's work I see. So my challenge is it really the point of view, the filter, the glasses that I have that see this discipline or this breaking of my identity or this lesson that needs to be taught? Is it really God being cruel, or is it my filter? Is it my glasses? Is it what I have learned that has turned maybe a season in my life that's supposed to show me how much I need God versus a cruel God coming down with a lesson? I think it's a gentle invitation, and maybe there's been a lot of gentle invitations and kind invitations into a space or into a question of saying, but son, is this all of you? But son, is this you? Like, maybe there's more, right? I want you to see this. But sometimes I feel like we get so caught up in our own things. I can speak for myself. Sometimes I can get caught up in what someone's going to think of me, who's going to accept me if I say this or do this, or what's going to happen if I do say no. What's going to happen if I have a good personal boundary and say, this is not the best thing for my life right now? Or maybe I should have learned how to ask for help previously, and now I have natural consequences I'm living through. Right? Like, it doesn't necessarily... That's the reason why I say yes, tentatively, but there's also this gentle of like, let's look at where that idea and that message of a cruel God coming down to discipline you that way, because from the fruits of the Holy Spirit I've read about, one of them is not cruelty.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's yes, and let's just look. Let's just look at it.
Yeah.
You know me. Go deeper.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that example just came to mind because we're reading. I'm reading through Exodus right now. Yeah. And I actually I went back to the first chapter with the boys because they brought something to light. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Read with me. Like, let's read Exodus together. So we're going through it right now. And that did come. And yeah, after every single, like even before Moses went to back to Egypt, he tells them, I'm gonna harden his heart. Like I'm giving you that disclaimer.
Yeah.
And then after or before every plague, he tells you like, but he hardened his heart.
Pharaoh's heart. Yeah.
And then there is one place, I can't quote it off memory yet. I will get better at that. But he says, I hardened his heart. Because as I'm reading this, I'm like, why did you harden his heart? Like, why would you on purpose harden his heart so that he doesn't listen to you? Like, you want your people free,
yes,
but you're also hardening the dude's heart at the same time. I'm like, why? But that's just me. I'm a nerd, and I like to dig.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was like, what? And then he answered my question, because as you keep reading, it says like, I'm doing this for the generations after generations for my glory. Because this story is going to be told for generations, and it's for my glory. I was like, oh,
it is a witnessing. I feel like to me, it's for the people. Yeah. It's for them to say, oh, you want me to trust a God I don't know that you say you talk to.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him. I haven't heard him the way that you have.
Right.
Any proof?
Yeah.
Because we're human and because we're stubborn.
Yeah, and you know what too? I think of Moses and all his excuses.
Dude, I was just gonna say
all of his excuses, and he's like, "But I'm with you." But here's your staff.
Yeah.
And then there's Aaron.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. So it's like, let's practice, because you're going to need this practice when you're out in the desert for 40 years with people that are super rebellious, super hard in their heart, that have gone through a ton of basically servitude and slavery. So obviously they are, again, my trauma brain goes there, right? It's hard to trust. They want to go to what they know. So he clearly needed that practice as a leader to lead that particular set of people, in my opinion.
Yeah. Dude, I relate to you, Lily, and then as you were talking, Chio, like with your, you growing up Catholic background and everything like that. But you, Lily, like with your introvert feeling and kind of tendency. I felt the same, and for you listening. In several episodes now, I've kind of shared the backstory here, but this episode is exclusive for worship. So, again, because it's relevant to what we're chatting about and why I do what I do, is I always loved music, always, and just like Chio, like you always love dancing in your body and stuff like that, and I was like, dang, okay, cool. And then like high school comes around, 8 Mile pops out, and I was like, I am destined to be a rapper. Like that is my thing.
And brother can throw some bars.
But y'all don't know.
I'm just saying, y'all don't know.
Back in the day. After liquid courage and other substances, I could rhyme with everything. No, but I thought that, that I was going to do that. I had my group of homies that, we were always rapping and freestyling this and that, and just music. I've always loved it. I forgot who I was telling this story to, but when I lived with my mom and I was home alone, I was gifted this like 6-speaker stereo. For those of you, a stereo for you Gen Zers
what's a stereo?
is this machine.
Okay, explain it. Describe it.
It's like a sound machine. You know how you have speakers in your car? It's kind of like that.
Does it have Bluetooth?
But better. No, it didn't exist.
Thank you,
Matter of fact, I think my stereo had cassette thingies, dude, to put cassettes in. But anyway,
mine did too. Don't feel bad.
Okay. So one of the speakers is on top of the TV, which was about eye level, standing up to it. And I remember clearly, dude, like as I was home alone, I would throw on some favorite CDs and I would blast it, full blast, and I'm like singing into the speaker, like just because I liked to sing, I liked to rap, I just liked the music, period. Todo es entonado y todo, but like I loved it,
Same.
So anyhow, it's funny, like now in retrospect, you're like, oh, okay, God, I see kind of how you were leading me the whole time. So I always liked music, and then I meet Abby's dad, LT, Luis. Dude, every episode I shout him out. This is getting obscene. This is dumb. But he's been that huge in my life. So anyway, I meet him, and then as Natalie and I met him and Liz, and we start, working business together and this and that. Natalie and I split up. We weren't married yet, but for 18 months we were broken up. So I was single father at 18. For 18 months, Angela was born March 2008. April 2008 is when I accept Christ. Because Abby's dad, Luis, he invites me to church. And he was always inviting me to church, and I'd always blowing him off because I just wanted to get drunk and high and stuff like that. And then I was like, yeah, you know what? Like this one time I'm just going to go. He's like, bro, it's Easter. What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. What is that? Like, I don't even, whatever, you know?
Who does anything on Easter?
Yeah, like who? And I go, and I remember clearly it was like this play that they had. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was a play of like two army buddies or war buddies. And they're in battle together. They're in war together. And then at the end of the play, one of them gets fatally wounded and he's dying in his friend's arms. And the friend is telling him, do you know Jesus? And the friend's like, no. And he's telling him about Jesus and, you know, how, you know, accept him as your Lord and Savior so you can go to heaven and this and that. And I'm bawling, dude. And I'm like, why? I don't know why I'm bawling right now, but this is hitting home like so hard. And, you know, the play is over, and then Pastor Chris comes out and he's like, "Quien quiera aceptar a Jesús? Who wants to accept Jesus in their life?" And I'm like, me. And I felt like an invisible hand from heaven just came down and picked me up from my chair and dragged me to the front. I'm on my knees, bro, like bawling. I'm like, God, like, okay. I was going through a lot, you know. I was like, is Natalie, like, I'm a father, dude. I'm 21 years old. Like, I have 2 boys now. I'm not with my baby mama. Like, this is not what I pictured. You know, this is not what I wanted. Like, I love her, but man, you gotta like work some kind of miracle here. And so I was going through a lot. And I accept Christ. So I think that was my first, like, okay, I'm gonna give my heart to you moment. I think the very first time that I met, like I actually felt God, was when I was 16, back in this Catholic thingy. The Catholics have like what's the first one? Not the baptism, but the first communion. Yeah, they have that thing. And then the next thing, it's a confirmation.
Yeah.
Right? So my parents took me to this confirmation class. I'm like, why am I going? Y'all don't even go to church. Why are you bringing me to this? And I was all mad.
Valid question.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this? Like, so at the end of this thing, I was just going because I was forced to go. And at the end of this class stuff, they take us to this like 2-day weekend retreat or whatever. And it was like kind of like an abandoned rundown hotel a little bit. There was no hot water. I think that was on purpose because they wanted us to appreciate what we have at home. Rock hard beds and all this stuff. But fast forward through that weekend, I remember very clearly they had this dynamic where we're all sitting Indian style facing a stage. It was like a gym, like a basketball gym. We're all facing the stage and sitting, and then they turn off the lights, and they were talking about God and this and that, and I'm crying at this point. And then they turn off the lights, you can't see anything, and all of a sudden you feel someone grab you, and then they blindfold you.
Oh my gosh!
And then
That's terrifying.
The voice that you hear though is the one from your little group leader.
No.
That you had like the entire time. And she was, I forgot her name, but she was like, mira, yo soy, sí sabes quién soy, ¿verdad? Sí sabes quién soy. You know who I am, right? I was like, oh yeah, I know your voice. And she's like, okay, follow me. Don't let go of my hand. Follow me. So blindfolded, she's guiding you through. You have no idea where you're going. You're blindfolded. It's night, right? And she's guiding me through an obstacle course. I mean, you have to go through a balance beam. You have to step through tires. You know how like
CrossFit.
Yeah, kind of CrossFit-ish. Remember in elementary school where they have the tires next to each other, different colors, and you have to like jump in and out of the little
drill.
Yes. So those, you have to go under.
That's not where my brain went. My brain went to one of those like dog obstacle course.
There you go. But for humans. Yeah. You have to climb a ladder, dude, blindfolded.
No.
Yeah, like you're outside. It was this whole thing. And then the very last one is you're on a rope. So there's a rope above you that you can grab onto, and then you're balancing on a rope with your feet. And you have to go across blindfolded. And The whole time she's telling you, trust me, come with me, like follow my voice, come through here. And at the same time that she's telling you this, you have all these other people telling you, no puedes, you're nothing, like pushing you around. Like, you know, oh no, come over here, you know, come my way and follow me. And so I got it, right? It's life and demons and this and that. Like, yeah, focus on your pastor, focus on your leader, right? You go through this whole thing, and finally they open the doors to somewhere, and it's all nice and quiet. And then she's like, walk. You go to the front. She takes your blindfold off, and you look up, and there's Jesus hanging on the cross. And I was just like, like okay, this was God the whole time. I got it, right? The dynamic. And God is leading you.
The illustration they were trying to put in.
Yeah. So they take you to your little spot, you're praying or whatever. So that was the first time I actually like felt God. You know, he used that in my, he knows, obviously, God knows you and he knows what's going to work for you. Yeah. He reveals yourself in a very customized way for you because he knows you and he knows what's going to make sense to your brain. So that's what I needed at that time. So that was that. Fast forward to April 2008, Easter. I accept Christ there. Fast forward to 2016, my wife gets diagnosed with thyroid cancer. She gets a surgery for 4 years. She was in remission, negative tests and everything. 2020 comes around and they tell her, 2019, December 2019, we're at church and there's like a little commercial that plays on the screen. And it's like, hey, if you have musical talent, we're looking for some help. And I was like, And mind you, coming from this Catholic background, the first time I started going to my church, you know, I loved the music. While it was weird because I came from a Catholic, gotcha. You know, this whole, and all of a sudden it's like rock, you know, it's like, like there's the drums and then there's electric guitars and then there's people jumping on stage and like just, you know, worshiping and you can see passion and it just live. I was like, whoa, this is weird, but I like it, you know? And then through the years, I started loving worship. Like I just loved the music. You know, I never wanted to be late to church because like, oh, what songs are they going to sing today? Like, I'm so excited to hear the music. And what I loved about the big campus is that I would always sit kind of close to like some big old speakers. So as the songs were playing, I could sing along.
Oh, you could sing super loud.
Yeah, and I could sing and not worry about people hearing me. Because I knew I wasn't a good singer. So I was like, man, this is going to disguise my voice, you know, but I can sing. But I was singing to sing. I wasn't singing like in praise, you know? So anyway.
I was going to ask, what did that feel like? Like, I love the music and I don't want to miss it. Like, what was that tapping into? Was it just like
excitement?
Right. Yeah.
Just the music? Or?
I think it was a 50-50 of like, I love the music, but I'm loving God. Like I'm feeling closer to God. I think that's when I would feel closer to God is through the music. Okay. I think.
So connection.
Yeah, connection.
Like connected.
Yeah. So this commercial comes and it's like musical talent. And I was like, oh, I know how to play guitar. I don't know chords. I don't know keys. I don't know what I'm playing, but I can listen to a song and I'll figure out the chords and I can play it. So they're like auditions on X day. Okay. So I go to the audition and then I walk into like the big stage and then some dude's on stage. Don't remember his name. Don't remember who it was. And he's like, what's up? I'm like, I'm here for the auditions for the guitar. And then he looks at me. He pauses and he looks at me and kind of like analyzing me. Squints his eyes. Holds his breath. And then he's like, do you know how to sing? And I was like, I guess, like in the shower, you know, karaoke. And he's like, yeah, you know what? Go with the singers. Like, you go, just follow here, go to this room.
So you showed up to audition for guitar with no guitar.
With no guitar.
I think that's probably why he squinted at you.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. That has nothing to do.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I asked. I forgot who I asked, but I was like, it's for guitar. Like, I don't have a guitar, but do I should? Yeah, they're like, yeah, man, just go. We got plenty of guitars. I was like, all right. So that happened. And at that moment, I felt rejected immediately. I was like, did this dude not you no le caí bien? Was I not dressed the part? Like, man, whatever, bro. Like, you know.
It's so clicky. Oh my god.
Yeah, I was like, all right, whatever, dude. I don't like you either. And then in a church, yes, I had that thought. Full disclosure.
Come on.
Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah,
And-
that happens.
Lots of people have those thoughts.
It
Yeah.
happens.
So I walk in and then to the voice rooms, and then it's full of mostly girls and just a couple guys. I was like, whoa, this is so uncomfortable. And then they start doing vocal warm-ups. I had never in a million years heard of, lip trills. I've never heard of like, going through the notes, like, whatever.
Scales, yep.
Scales. I was like, this
Same.
is weird, but I like it. So I come out. I think I don't know if I talked to you, Lily, or you, Abby. I don't remember, honestly. It's kind of a blur, but I was like, you know what? This is cool. Like, I think I could learn to sing.
Mm.
So then you, Lily, it was you.
Because Lily was taking classes with me.
Yes.
And I heard him sing some Spanish song tonight, and I was like, this boy got pipes, he don't even know it.
Mm.
Oh. So.
It was all romantic karaoke song. There was a lot of us there. It was a group, a group of friends, and I was like, I'm not sure if he's singing Alejandro or Chente or who.
It was
but
Alejandro for sure.
yeah, I was like, he can sing.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was in Abby's backyard.
I think so.
What?
It was like a Viva Mexico thing or something.
I have no idea. I don't remember, but we were all together.
Yes.
Some party thing. Yeah.
Dude, that's funny. I can't put the date. It was before this. What I'm talking about is before that.
Oh, okay.
But we were at this, it was in your house. And then I sang to Nat, and you were like, and after everyone left, we were sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were on the end of the table. And then you were like, you're going to be worshiping with us one day. And I was like,
What?
ha! Yeah. Me? Yeah, right. Whatever. That'll be the day.
Mm.
How funny.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome,
Thank you,
man.
Lily. So then
You're welcome.
I could tell Lily, hey, I like this thing. I start going to classes with Vere. You told me about Vere. I met Vere.
Yeah.
And then I think I took maybe 2 classes with her, 3 classes tops maybe. And then they tell Nat that the cancer came back. And I immediately quit classes. I dropped out of WhatsApp groups. I unfollowed people from church because I threw my little tantrum at God. I was like, this isn't cool. I want nothing to do with you. I'm not going to church anymore. Like, I'm not doing.
What does that mean? You threw a tantrum?
I got mad at God.
There you go.
Thank
So
you.
it's anger.
I got ticked off
Right?
because I'm like, dude, Nat has a heart of gold, dude. Like, she is one of the sweetest people I know.
I agree.
How are you gonna let this happen? After we've been coming to you church for years.
Yeah.
After, you've blessed us to this point. Like,
After you've done the work.
after everything we've been through, I'm starting to learn to sing, to get on your freaking worship team. And you're going to do me like this? I was like, nah, I'm done. And I got mad. And then I called your dad. I called Luis. Told him how I felt.
I think you guys know.
Good.
Yeah, I think you guys know. Listened to a couple episodes before. And he talked to me and stuff like this. And so I calmed down eventually. Kept going to church because I was like, you know what? My boys can't, we can't just stop going, because I'm angry. So,
I've never seen you quit a thing in your life, Art.
oh, thank you. So I was like, nah, so we keep going. And 90 days later, he shuts my mouth because he healed Natalie. And literally, the doctor, she had a a body scan done. And then she was going to go back for the results a week later. During this church session, she gets healed. She hears the Holy Spirit tell her, you're healed. Another lady walks up to her and confirms it because she's like, hey, God told me to tell you that you're healed. I don't know what you're going through, but that's what he said. So we're like, whoa. And then a week later, we go back for the results, and the doctor's like, your other results came back negative. I don't know what to tell you. You had it, and now you don't. And, she's had follow-ups every 6 months, and they're always negative. So it's a legit, it's not a misdiagnosis for those of you non-believers. It's not, oh, well, maybe you should have gotten a second opinion. dude, she is healed 100%.
Yeah.
So anyway, once this miracle happens, I immediately come home. I cry my eyes out, and I'm like, God, I'm so sorry that I threw my little tantrum at you. But you know me, you know how I would react or whatever. But I was like, I'm so sorry. I will now give my life to you. I will serve you.
Yeah.
And that's when that was when I truly fell in love with God. Like he used that to pull me to him as closer as I've ever been.
It kind of sounds to me like the honesty, the integrity you had to yourself to come to the feet of the Lord and say, I am heartbroken and disappointed. And that's why I feel this anger, because that's what disappointment is, right? It's an appointment that was not met. You felt like God should have come through the way you thought he should have by her not getting sick. So it was a disappointment that led to anger, that led to you being authentic with God, completely transparent, opened your heart and said, this is my expectation and I feel let down. And I think that counts. If I think of just a healthy relationship, for somebody to say that, to say I am disappointed because this is what I expected and you let me down, that is gold to me. Because I've always said honesty can be worked with. I can work on a relationship with my Heavenly Father. I can work on a relationship with a family member, with a loved one, with someone that I deeply care for, with whoever I want to have a relationship with. But I need honesty. And I think that's where you were. You had that disappointment. It felt unfair. And that's where you're like, oh, I threw my, tantrum, or I was angry. Good. I'm glad. I don't ever feel like I have to defend God's honor, because I've gone to him in those same states, and I felt closer to him in those moments than I ever have. And I think that it is a disservice to anyone that wants to experience worship, that wants to experience the love of God, that wants to really have the curiosity to say, who are you and why did you make me? What purpose, divine purpose, do you have for my life? To come to the Lord, to the feet of Jesus with anything but that transparent and honest of like, I've been hurt, I am angry, I'm confused, I don't understand. Because you're coming honest. Masks are off. You're not prim and proper. It's not the right words. You're not declaring this or that. It's, I am here and my heart is open and you are surrendering. And if I am not mistaken, I believe that is the first time the word worship is used in the Bible, is when Abraham is taking the gift he was given of Isaac. It wasn't a band. There was no strings. There was no rocked out concert. It was Abraham taking the gift of Isaac to an altar. It was a man taking his precious gift to an altar to surrender to the Lord. It was costly. It was a sacrifice. And I feel like it was that process. You went with authenticity. And he's like, you're finally being honest with me. And I'm sure Natalie has her own version of everything she gained from it as well. But thank you. I love hearing stories like that, because it's amazing to me to see how God moves, exactly like you said, with the right details. He loves you so much as a son, where maybe you were thinking your value was in your performance, just like what we talked about right now. And yet he wanted to make sure he unlocked that door so that when you got up on that stage, you were safe. And you knew why you were there and you knew who you are. You weren't perfect. Because, the psalm says sing skillfully before the Lord, right? And we work on it and we do the drills. But now you know who you are. You know whose you are and what your purpose is to be up there. And that is a much safer worship leader than somebody that can sing like the biggest, most talented singers out there and run all the riffs and reach all the notes.
Yeah, the guy that can come out on America's Got Talent and stuff, but his heart's not there.
Yeah,
God knew what he was doing, dude. Because I auditioned twice, and I got rejected twice the first 2 times. But I was like, no, like I'm doing this for God, no matter what it takes. And then it took that was in July. So so several months later, it took me till December to audition again, and then finally, Abby texts me, "Hey, welcome to the Northeast Worship Team." I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Cool," but God knew what He was doing, and that makes so much sense, Lily. Exactly the way you put it, because now we sing a couple of songs that we sing of miracles.
Yeah.
Like Too Good to Not Believe.
Yeah.
And I could not sing that with my heart
Come on.
if
That is so
He
good.
had not healed Natalie.
Yep.
He knows me, and I would have just been singing a song to sing, not singing a song believing exactly what I'm singing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like completely opposite to you, Abby. You were talking about, you went through the stage of like, oh yeah, like I want to be heard and I want my voice to shine and this and that. I was on the total opposite end. I was like, dude, I am trash singing. Like I don't know why you're doing this, Lord. Like, why here? Are you trying to embarrass me on purpose or like what? Like, I just felt so inadequate. My self-image was rock bottom. You remember when I first started taking singing lessons with you, I was just so like, oh my gosh, like I'm not there's a million people better. Why me, God? But I'm gonna do it because I'm obedient.
Yeah.
But that's it. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because like you're like that was trash singing. I'm like, yeah, but I'm that person that says according to who?
Says
like,
where did that
Yeah.
message come from?
because if God hears you singing in the shower for Him and it's out of tune, He likes it.
Mm-hmm.
That is fire coming through the suds, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm I'm gonna be that person on this podcast. So
Yeah.
if you don't like it,
Yeah, no,
that's
no,
fine.
I
You
love
can
it.
stop
Yeah.
hearing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to challenge that and like the fact that you said He shut my mouth up. I think He answered you
Mm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
because God's just that good. Like He knows you,
Yeah.
you know?
There.
And yeah, go for it.
When so someone in the worship team, someone who I like really looked up to, told me this story one time, and they were telling me, what? Do you know what I'm? Okay. Well, they were telling me this story about this person singing in a choir, and so that person like sang so bad. And they stuck them in the choir so that because they couldn't lead a song, so they stuck them in the choir, and they were like, you're good here, but we don't want you out here. And everyone around them was always like making faces whenever they would sing, or and so the day, so that man's day comes, and he goes up to heaven and he meets the Lord, and the man tells God, like, God, I'm so sorry, like, for my singing. Like, I was singing so bad. Like, I'm sorry. I was singing so bad in the choir. And God replies to him with, what choir? Oof.
Oh.
And it's exactly what you were saying too. Like,
Yeah.
no matter how bad or how good your singing is, if you're singing with your whole heart to the Lord, that's all He hears. That's all He listens to. That's all He worries about. Right now, Art, when you were talking about your reason for worshiping now, of like, you're saying like, now, like, you couldn't sing that song, Too Good to Not Believe, talking about miracles, with your whole heart, and like, now I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can look at Natalie like standing in the congregation and be reminded like, oh wow, like,
I actually don't look at her on purpose
So you don't
because
break down
I
crying.
will break down crying.
No, yeah.
If y'all know me, I cry. But anyway,
So in preparation for today, I was like reviewing some stuff that I had highlighted in my Bible about worship and stuff, and so I'm flipping through these pages, and then I flipped through this one page, and I never, like, I had read it before because I had it highlighted, and so I knew that I had read that part of the Bible before, but in just rereading it, I was like, I didn't notice this part, and today I noticed this part, and it's because it's in Numbers. And to be honest, I was like, like Numbers is a tough read.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
Numbers is like, and then
It
they made
is.
this, and then they made
It
this
is.
with this color and this amount, and it can become a little bit redundant, and you're like, okay, blah blah blah.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's skip to the end.
Right. So I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. But anyways, I knew I had read through this part, but I had just noticed it in preparation for today, and it's in Numbers chapter 10. And the Lord, so it says the Lord spoke to, chapter 10. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, make 2 silver trumpets. So right after the bat, trumpets, musical instruments, brings my mind to worship, right?
Mm.
It says, you shall use them for summoning the congregation and for breaking camp. And so it goes on to explain of like when you blow the trumpet once, it means you want to bring the leaders of the congregation together. If you blow it twice, you're bringing everyone together. And so it says, and the sons of Aaron the priests shall blow the trumpets. And then it says, and when you go to war in your land against the adversary who oppresses you, then you shall sound an alarm with the trumpets, that you may be remembered before the Lord your God, and you shall be saved from your enemies. And then going down to towards the end, it says, they shall be a reminder of you before your God. I am the Lord your God. And I was thinking about this as I was reading it, and I was just like contemplating the concept of music, contemplating the concept of the art form itself. And it's really random, to be honest. Like, there's lots of drills that you can do, not just for voice, but for instruments as well.
Yeah.
And it's just explaining the 2 silver trumpets. And for me, music is so powerful. And I think everyone can recognize that music is so powerful. It can inspire. It can hurt. It can
Set a
bring
mood.
hope. Yeah. You know, music is totally, like, transformative for us humans, and the Lord chooses to use music, instruments, voices as reminders for us. It says, so that you may remember that I am the Lord your God. And I think that because we're so freaking stubborn, like we're so stubborn and we're so obnoxious and we're so set in our ways as humans, that we need those reminders from God. And because he's so gracious to us, he says, like, I am going to remind you, and I'm going to remind you in a way that I know is going to impact you, not just through words, not just through something that you might hear, but through something that can touch the deepest, darkest part of your soul, that is music. And I just think God is so creative and so, like, specific with what he uses to remind us these things. And like, for in your case, it is music, it is worship, it is singing, and God uses that through you. And who cares if you're just singing it to yourself, to you and God, because that, like I said, that is what God listens to. And it doesn't matter if you're singing it to a whole congregation or singing it to God himself or ministering it to someone that in the congregation. Like, as long as you're doing it with your whole heart to the Lord, like that is what he sees. And I think that it's just really beautiful that God uses music as reminders for us.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
There is a scripture, Psalms 149, and it talks about worship and music is a weapon, a spiritual weapon against the enemy. Psalms 149, it says, praise the Lord. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing his praises in the assembly of the faithful. O Israel, rejoice in your Maker. O people of Jerusalem, exult in your King. Praise his name with dancing. Chio, let's go. Accompanied by tambourine and harp, for the Lord delights in his people. He crowns the humble with victory. Let the faithful rejoice that he honors them. Let them sing for joy as they lie on their beds. Let the praises of God be in their mouths and a sharp sword in their hands. Dude, that's so cool. Because one of the songs we sing is Raise a Hallelujah. Canto Hallelujah. And one of the lines is, my weapon is a melody. And as I was singing it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
How is a weapon? So I kind of, and then that happened. So
Well, I think
Yeah.
there's so many stories, right? I mean, like
So
one
many,
of them
countless.
comes from, Jericho, and the amount of times that they had to walk over and over and over, and then it was when the trumpet sounds, and then the shout, right? And they did not. It's not documented that they took their sledgehammers out and took the walls
Yeah.
down. Like, no, the presence of the Lord was so powerful that the walls just crumbled, right?
Through the sound of the trumpets
And the shouting,
and the shouting.
right?
Yeah. Another thing that I was going to mention, with the whole concept of shouting and trumpets and harps and all the beautiful instruments that God chooses to use, as I was contemplating again the concept of music, I was again thinking about how gracious and merciful God is to give us music here on earth. Because we're also going to experience it in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing I think that we're going to experience in heaven that we can experience here on earth as well. And if not, we're going to experience it like 100 times better in heaven,
my gosh.
obviously.
For sure.
But I came into my mind of in Revelation 5 verse 9, and says, and they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth." And then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000. They encircled the throne and the living creatures and the elders. In a loud voice they were saying, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise." And I contemplate that, and I'm like, how gracious and merciful are you to give us music now, knowing that when we get to heaven, tens upon thousands and thousands of angels are going to be singing what we're singing now on earth.
And because you remember the way it feels like.
And because you remember the way it feels.
We're in agreement on stage or on the floor or wherever you're worshiping.
In your living room.
Yes. And you just feel the presence of the Lord and the delight that it feels to be in the presence of the Lord.
That is so powerful.
Yes.
But again, so simple.
Yes.
The way that Rocio explained it.
Yes.
It's so
amazing.
simple.
We complicate it too much.
And so complicated.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to what you shared on your story. I was going to ask you, do you think that because it was a prayer, in my opinion, that you said that you were angry and pissed off, right? Like you were like, why is this happening again? Do you think that that's worship?
That's an interesting question. My knee-jerk answer would be no.
Okay.
I think that was just an honest dialogue.
Yeah.
Of like, well, I mean, you already know how I feel.
Right.
Because you're God.
That's
but
right.
I'm going to tell you how I feel.
Right.
I'm pissed.
Which is what God wants in the first place. So if we're saying that worship is us giving our heart to Him, He already knows how you feel, but you're choosing to connect with Him anyways.
Dang,
choice.
dude. I didn't think about that.
You chose to say, "I'm pissed off that my wife got diagnosed with cancer again, and I don't understand." And He's like, "Oh my gosh, you're coming back to me.
Coming back.
I don't care." Like, I honestly don't. This is me. People can like disagree with me. Even if you would have cussed him out, he would have been like, "It's okay. Because I knew this was going to happen already, and you chose to connect with me again."
Because if I remember right, the old Art liked to numb his frustrations differently before. He would have run to something else, not to the feet of the throne.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the way that I see worship outside of, just so like reference, I don't sing on a stage. And I actually asked, like, Art kind of called it out really good. We were texting and he asked me and I was like, "I'm not sure if I want to be on this podcast." Like it was like we were on the same brainwave. I was like, "Why do you want me on the podcast?" And you told me why, right?
Can I share why?
Yeah, sure.
Can I say what you said on the text? I told Chio, I would love for you to be part of this. and she said, I would feel very
inadequate
because I don't sing and you guys are singers.
Right.
And I was like, dude, when I'm on that stage and I can vaguely see people, and I always look to where you were at, and you were lost in worship, dancing, dancing your butt off and worshiping your butt off. And I'm like, no one else worships like she worships.
Or on the floor.
Or on the floor.
Or on my face.
Either way, it's worship, right? Either way, it's like...
If you were, I couldn't see because it's already hard to see with the lights in your face. But, dude, I knew... You just know Chio's worshiping.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't even need to stare. You just glance and you're like, yep, she's in worship.
She's wrecked.
And when
she's
you
wrecked.
stand next to her...
Yeah,
you
that's a
feel.
different... Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah. So that's why I asked you to be here.
Yeah. So I want to share this really quick. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due because these are not my words. It's out of a journal that I got from the people who wrote I Sing a Hallelujah, which is Jonathan and Melissa Helser from the Cageless Birds. If you guys don't follow them, I highly suggest you do. Those people have been doing worship, and I don't even mean like corporate or like these people are known around the world. But I got a chance to meet them personally on a retreat that I went to. And so this journal comes from that retreat. And I'm just going to like read through this. And it just reminded me of like what Art was sharing right now. Of like, I was so angry, like rightfully so. Like, it's your wife. You love her.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she has a heart of gold. Like, you know, like there's so many things there. There's so much history with the Lord and what he's done in your life, in your marriage, with your children.
Yeah.
And the page says, my humanity and the humanity of Jesus. Jesus felt the full range of human emotion.
He sure did.
He went to the depths of loss and betrayal, disappointment, joy, celebration, and delight. He felt it all, but he never broke connection with the Father. If Jesus only did what he saw his Father doing, then he saw his Father weep, laugh, heal the sick, and be a friend to the outcast. He watched his Father go to the depths of pain with the broken and needy and transform them by his delight, approval, and endless love.
Yeah.
Our humanity is not a hindrance.
No.
I'm going to read that one more time.
Yeah, please. For the people in the back.
Our humanity is not a hindrance. So the tantrum that you thought you were throwing wasn't. God was like, come here. Come on, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you can come at me pissed off. It's okay. It is the meeting place between our hearts and the heart of Jesus. Surrendering to the love of God means that we must return to the truth that Jesus loves our humanity. So much so that he died for it. We can give him our misconceptions and failures and give in to the beauty of what it means to be human. He became like us and chose to stay like us for eternity. He calls humanity glorious, and we are called to come into agreement with the glory he has declared. We must give him back his humanity so that we may fully receive ours.
Wow.
Dude.
And then, in reference, what I'm about to say, this last part, you can look at, if you read the Bible. If you don't, it's all good. It's all good. Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. And then you can also refer back to Mark 14, verses 32 through 42, and this is the Passion Translation. It says, he existed in the form of God, yet he gave no thought to seizing equality with God as his supreme prize. Instead, he emptied himself of his outward glory by reducing himself to the form of a lowly servant. He became human. He humbled himself and became vulnerable, choosing to be revealed as a man and was obedient. He was a perfect example even in his death, a criminal's death by crucifixion. Yeah. So
I can't be like you without you.
that's right. That Jesus knew everything that we would feel and experience, and he knew that within that's our heart. Like, we're human. We feel emotion and we feel pain and we feel grief and sorrow and loss and joy and celebration, you know, so many good things, right? And that he felt it all. he was here long enough to feel all of it.
Yeah.
And that he's like, yeah, it's okay if you feel it, because I know that through that you'll see me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's so
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
I'd like to just, like it's nothing bad. Like, I feel like people see anger as a really bad thing or like a sin, and it's not. Jesus got angry.
Mm-hmm.
Anger, I was just listening to it right now. Anger reveals passion. Like, if you're angry about the right things, it reveals passion. You have a passion for it, and it pumps you up, right?
Yep.
The Lord has anger. It
Yeah.
always says in the Bible that the anger of the Lord was kindled
That's
against.
Yeah.
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 So,
It's just an emotion. And we
That's
are
right.
image bearers, so we're going to have that emotion too.
yeah. So I would say that what happened to you in that span of time when Natalie was re-diagnosed again, that was also worship.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that it was hard and that there was tension. But if guitars didn't have strings, then how would their sound come out?
That
Dude.
tension. Yeah.
There's tension. There's tension in your vocal cords, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is, biologically
Yep.
speaking. But
Biologically speaking, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Dang.
he's in the tension with you and your humanity, and that's worship too. When you choose to go to him in
Yeah.
those places.
And is that not when relationships flourish
Right.
or break down?
Mm-hmm.
In the tensions, in the disagreements, in the missed appointments, in the disappointments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that not where
Yeah.
they get stronger? Is that not where, man, I remember that day and we were so angry with each other and it was so dumb. And now look, like
We talked
now
it
we're
out.
best of friends. Or, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
And
So, yeah.
adding on that, I think the common theme that we've all been talking about is whether it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, like offering your whole self
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to God. And I want to refer, back to what Scripture says.
Yeah.
The Levites were set apart from all the other tribes of Israel, and all the other tribes of Israel had their own inheritance that God gifted them. But in the Bible, it says that he chose the Levites.
Yeah.
The Levites were a chosen tribe, and that their inheritance was the Lord Himself.
Mm.
Right.
Their inheritance was not
The land.
the land, anything of the promised land, which I think is really, really important to point out, because these Levites were also in the desert,
Mm.
and they were going to a place where God was going to take them through pain,
Mm-hmm.
through suffering,
Mm.
through doubt, confusion, and He was going to take them to that promised land. But that promised land, like, God was like, yeah, but this is also not the promise that I have for you.
Mm.
I'm taking all of the Israelites on this journey, that the promised land is not yours. I am yours,
Mm.
Mm.
and you are mine.
Oof.
You
And you are mine.
I
You know, and like the Bible says that they were to be wholly given to the Christ, like holy, their whole self, their whole body, their whole
heart.
life, their whole heart, their whole labor was to be given to the Lord, a living sacrifice. You know? And that is exactly what we do every time we worship, no matter what we're doing, no matter in what form of worship you're doing. You're offering your whole self as a living sacrifice, because your inheritance is not anything of this world. Your inheritance is the Lord.
Just like Abraham.
Just like Abraham. You know?
And the Samaritan woman in John 4. And I quote, right, where he's not supposed to talk to her because society says he wasn't
Right.
supposed to. And Jesus said to the woman, right, John 4:21, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews," the people He chose. "But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and in truth."
Yeah.
That's what that reminded
So
me
good.
of. Because you're absolutely right. Like that. I mean, how do we feel after a worship session?
Exhausted. This is why we needed the Sunday naps
Yeah.
before this podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, come on, let's look at a concert. Look at any awesome concert. I don't care what the band is. It could be Metallica, or it could be, a worship song.
Hillsong.
What's the first thing people do when they are jamming out? They raise up their hands. They get in it.
Pump their fist.
Yes, their whole self is involved.
Yeah, it's a whole body experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now I'm going through this whole process where I just learned about a scale that exists to measure. It's called the MMR scale. It's used to evaluate mood regulation in music. It's a psychology tool, right? Participants are evaluated on something known as Music and Mood Regulation Scale, the MMR. According to the MMR, the way individuals regulate their mood with music can be divided into 7 categories. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Entertainment, revival, strong sensation, mental work, solace, diversion, and discharge.
Whoa.
The last 3 categories, solace, diversion, and discharge, are all ways in which individuals can use music to regulate negative emotion. And this is just psychology today for you. So that is a quotable thing so it is a measurable scientific fact.
Right.
That the God of the universe created sound. In fact, I believe there's some translations that say instead of speaking, he sung into existence. But that's just my theory.
Give me chill bumps.
But if you don't believe in God, I'm sure you've gone to a concert and you've been high off your dopamine receptors, being flooded with the amazing music coming from musicians playing whatever it is that you prefer to listen to. I've been in depressive moments where I was like, I need to stop listening to the singer because my depression is just going to get worse.
No, yeah.
So music affects you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and soul.
Yep.
So that piece that you just said of how, as Levites, as the people that lead worship, right, that are because worship is not 30 minutes before the preaching, right? I feel like it is an honor, me as a person in whatever role I play, to go and make the first thing the right thing. Like it's a 30-minute, okay, sure, it's a 30-minute spot where we get to set the priority.
Yeah.
Of the presence of the Lord. I make, like, it's literally like we are here to open our mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
To prepare us to drop everything we've come with throughout the week, throughout the day. And it's not just at church.
Exactly.
Moms that are raising toddlers and in super stress. You can worship while you're washing dishes and you're setting the first thing first.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be Abby on stage at conference or Sunday morning, 30 minutes before the preaching. Like, in spirit and in truth, to me, is just like art, worshiping at the feet of the Lord.
Right.
In all of his anguish over the bad news. That is in spirit and in truth. It wouldn't be truthful if you hadn't been honest.
That's right.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, so thank you for taking us there, Abby. I love that little rabbit hole we went down.
Dude. And
awesome.
let me just, press down on the elevator of this rabbit hole real quick of the science part. And this is where I say, man, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Because it's like, let's just think music. Music wouldn't be music if ears weren't developed.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you how much faith does it take to believe that over millions of years, your ears developed in just the right way? The little membrane, which is your eardrum, it's just the right millimeter to vibrate in just the right way and in just the right spot so that you can hear just the right note. I mean, oh my gosh, bro. Like, can we just agree that you were designed perfectly to hear and to just disfrutar, enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Music, dude.
And I know deaf people that enjoy it through vibration.
That's absolutely right. I was gonna go the route of like athletics / like people who love nature.
Thank you. Yeah.
Everything that like you just said, I can experience it not in a concert, but I can go for a 13-mile run, 5-mile run, 1-mile run, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Experience dopamine through birds and the rustling of leaves
Yeah.
and the smell of the flowers. If it's winter, smells good because it's
Gorgeous.
nice cold air hitting my face.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
all of that melody within nature that God has
Yes.
made. Because I can put my like earbuds in and be like, I'm good. I'm gonna jam out, right? Have my own concert in my ears. But at the same time, like, don't even get me started on like circadian rhythms that our bodies are like,
Yo.
we love nature, we need nature. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it calls to us on
Yeah.
purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I could easily compare it to something like that.
You're right.
Yeah.
Or a walk. It doesn't even have to be a run.
Yeah.
Just like, let me just go and walk really quick.
Yeah.
Going back like to the science of it all, there's this tool that I've studied in school. I study music. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but I saw a video about it one time. Like, I've gotten to use this tool, I've gotten to experience it, and it's like really cool because you can speak into it or sing into it, and it'll show you all of the individual overtones in your voice. And so there's this video that I saw about that, and this person is using the tool, and they're just saying the word ah. They're just like like repeatedly into the mic, not necessarily in a melody or anything, but just in a speaking tone. And he starts isolating the individual overtones, and so he just goes like one by one, like one more overtone, adding another one, okay, another one, and another one, and in every note you sing or speak, there is a major chord.
Oh, wow.
There's a major chord in your voice.
Yeah.
Which I think is so beautiful because you don't always have to sing to worship.
No.
You know, it can, you don't always have to, I think of it as of like how much delight does the Lord have in us when we share the gospel, when we share his message, speaking. Like, imagine how beautiful that sounds to the Lord. Every individual note in your voice, every individual chord in your voice that the Lord has specifically created and designed to be yours, and there is no other voice like yours in the whole world.
Right.
You know, like, imagine how beautiful and pleasing it is to the Lord when you share the gospel, when you share the message of Jesus. When
you encourage someone that's down.
Yes, you simply encourage someone, or you compliment someone, or you're just being Christ-like vocally.
Yeah.
Imagine how beautiful that is to him.
Yeah. Or bodily, like just your physically. Bodily sounds weird, but just physically of like, hey, look, I'm here in your pain. I'm just here. I'm not going to try to comfort you. I'm not going to try to touch you and soothe you. I'm just going to be here for you.
Or give an answer.
Yeah.
I'm just here.
I'm just saying.
I'm here to show you that I'm supporting you and I love you.
Yeah.
With what you're going through.
Yeah. And you know, I got mind blown with that because I heard an engineer use that tool to isolate the tones of what, like a dolphin, for example, and then you put the tones into melody, and you hear the melody, and it literally sounds like two little dolphins playing. Like, it's just, it's wonderful. It's life-giving. I feel like we are meant to be delighted in, and we are meant to delight in. And I think that's what we experience when we're worshiping. We are delighting and putting first the presence of the Lord and hosting his presence so that others can be like, oh, okay, I think I can drop all these things that, right? We're shepherding people into, all right, let's just take a breath. Collectively, because there is power in unity. You read about, you just read that verse of tens of thousands of angels singing.
Yeah.
When we sit down and we agree and we're saying this block of time is for that worship, well, no matter where it is, whether it's at church or it doesn't matter, you are coming into agreement with what is happening infinitely on a loop over and over again, uniquely in heaven. And there is power there. But yeah, we're meant to be delighted in, and we're meant to delight. I love that.
So let's chat about, why do you worship? Why is it? I want to start with Chio.
Why do we personally worship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, why do you do what you do? Why?
Because Jesus. There you go.
Right.
Yes.
But like, let's dive a little deeper there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you worship? What makes you want to dance your butt off when you're hearing, um, the worship music? And I'm sure you do it at home too. It's not just on a Sunday morning. So
yeah, I do. There's I've danced for the Lord with no music.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I just like to challenge people on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen there's an artist that my sister follows, that Lily follows on Instagram. I follow her now. She's amazing. She's here locally, and she won an art award on Chalk the Block. And if that girl worships with her art, and it's amazing. I've been in so many other places where I've experienced the presence of the Lord that is not in a church and that it's not facing a stage. And people can think whatever they want, but like I've felt him in a dance studio when I'm practicing, when I'm doing my ballet drills, when I mean I got to a class half an hour before so I can stretch and like, and I'm doing just like a warm up, and he just it's very tangible. I got an opportunity to go to Bethel, which is I was going to say a school. They do have a school, but to the actual church. It's in Redding, California, and they have this whole ministry. It's called Bethel's Supernatural School of Ministry, BSSM. And God's called them to do this. It's like a whole movement thing where they have an acting school, a dancing school, worship, and like, I'm pretty sure there's like more there. And I got to experience, I've been following them for a long time. And you have worshipers on stage, you have painters on stage, and you have dancers on stage. And all of them are worshiping in what God has given them, right? Like in their craft. And why worship? Oh man, it's such a big
That's a loaded question.
It's a big answer, but I think it's also very simple. Because he loves me.
Yeah.
Period. Like, yeah. God's been really merciful and like loving. And there's been times in my life where like I've felt almost like, oh God, you gave me this talent and this like craft and this thing. And I didn't really feel like it was welcomed within a church setting. I've felt him in salsa socials before. Yeah. A lot of people will be like, well, how can you film in a salsa social if it's like earthly music? God's wrecked me with a lot of earthly music.
Yeah.
No,
I get you.
Yeah, I call them undercover worship songs.
El reloj cuckoo. Shout out to those of you with father wounds.
Yeah, like it's because he's everywhere and he's found me in those places.
Yeah.
I remember, like I wasn't even doing anything. I was sitting in a dance studio and we have these two really big windows. Shout out to the Fox Fine Arts.
Heck yeah.
Floor number 4. You have to like do the stairs because our professor wouldn't let us take the elevator. I was sitting up there and I was just looking out the window. And I was obviously feeling some sort of way because I was like contemplating my life, looking out the window. And I just feel the Holy Spirit like just come over me. And I was like, I start crying or like I start laughing or I'm like, I feel like I should like start dancing. So like I start warming up and I just feel his presence. So like it's been very like a process of discovery for me of finding him in like all these like different places and ways in my life where I didn't know they were possible or they're not really like exposed or brought up in a corporate setting at church. That God can show up. So he's surprised me in a lot of different ways. I think another example is I was at a very high stress job, a very stressful job. And I had this like conflict with a coworker and I left. So like I walked outside to get some air. And I was done. Like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
These people are horrible, right? Like, I'm trying to be Jesus. And like, I want to punch everyone in the face, you know? Just being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I go and I sit on the sidewalk and I hear this like little chirp, like it's like beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, we ain't got no birds here. Like, what's happening? And there was a tree right next to like the exit. So I'm sitting there and I just see this bird. And literally God was like, I feed him and he gets water and a house every day and he doesn't have to worry about anything. And he's like, why don't you try? Like, come on, trust me that way. Like,
wow.
I got you. Like, you're going to be okay. And I'm just like weeping on this sidewalk outside of my job. So yeah, there's little moments where God has like reminded me that he's there, and it takes slowing down. The rhythm of God is not fast paced like our society kind of sells us the hustle and grind and like you gotta like, you know,
nonstop
have the 2.5 kids and like the white picket fence. And if you want that, that's awesome. Like if that's the promise that God's given you, like I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that like I just don't work that way. And like you said, God knows you, right? God knows the way that you function. And I am okay with saying that I'm someone who likes a slow pace, and God just wrecks me with nature all the time. He really does. I've seen him in my niece, like, that little girl. I'm just like, how am I getting wrecked by an 11-year-old right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand, you know, like in a child, you know? All of those things are worship to me, because it's almost like how Lily was saying that, like in the Bible, it says that he sung a melody over us, like when he created humans. It's like God's singing a song over me when those things happen. Like, you know, when he meets me there, he's singing over me and he's like, come on, like sing with me. And when I join in, like whether it's with my movement or with recognizing that he made the bird and that he's going to protect me the way he protects the bird, whatever it is, like it's me coming into agreement with the fact of saying, yeah, like I know that I'm going to be okay. Yeah. So that's a really long answer.
Wow.
But I have, there's so many examples that I've lived where I've put, or other people have also, I've chosen to put God in a box because other people have taught me to put him in a box. Or that's all I was ever shown. So I thought that was the only way God worked.
Yeah.
And he slowly has just taught me that he doesn't fit in any of a box anywhere. Like, he just doesn't. And I have fully come to terms and agreement with the fact that like he can show up anywhere. I've gotten preached to by a homeless person to me, like in a conversation. I'm not saying like preaching like with the Bible, but like, ministered to me through a homeless person.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had some experiences where they're like, you sure that was God? I'm like, yeah, dude, because I felt the Holy Spirit, you know, like, let me tell you that. Yeah. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you, Chu.
Yeah, thank you.
If he watches over every sparrow. That's what came to mind.
Oh, yeah, dude.
How much more? So good.
Gyro.
You are know. Starts crying. You are know.
Dang.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Can I share mine? It's because, like, I feel like your story impacted me a lot, because I feel like, again, like simplicity. Mm-hmm. Going back to the simplicity, and like, I think that's where my worship came from. And I know that Lily, I'm gonna tell a story that Lily knows all about. Before, I feel like my worship really transformed within just the past year. And Lily knows why, and here it goes.
Ready?
So last year, maybe like 2 months prior to last year's youth conference, and look, youth conference is next weekend. So it's been a process of a year where I feel like the Lord has really transformed my worship, and I don't think I've ever worshipped the way that I have this past year.
Mm.
So in like leading up to the conference, I was going through a process where I felt like it was difficult for me to accept love.
Mm.
It was difficult for me to grasp the concept of someone loving me and like not necessarily in a romantic setting, but even just like God's love. Like how? Like I don't understand.
Like not transactionally,
Right.
not needing
And
something, right?
It was that. It was I came home one day crying like from I was driving home from college and I came home, my mom was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was just like, I cannot comprehend God's love for me. Like it's difficult for me to comprehend it, and I want to comprehend it, but I know that I never will. Like God's love is that great, but I just like I want a reason. Like, why do you love me? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And again, like Lily was saying, my idea of worship was I was taking the whole concept of like a living sacrifice to, okay, I have to work. I have to work for God's favor. I have to lay down all that I have, which I, again, am more than willing to. Like, that is good, but when it gets to the point of I felt like I needed to work to be loved. Like I needed to offer something, to give something of myself just to be loved. And
That you weren't enough.
that I wasn't enough. That someone needed a reason to love me.
Wow.
Not just because it was me. You know? So God takes me through this whole process. And one Sunday, I was in the Northeast campus. I'm pretty sure Art and Lily were like on that stage with me. And so I'm leading this song. And as soon as I start singing the song, I like out of my peripheral vision, I can see a little girl standing next to me. And I've never in my life had a vision. Like that was kind of the first time something was revealing something visually to me. So I'm singing and I'm leading the song, and then all of a sudden, like out of my peripheral vision, I see a little girl standing next to me. And every like movement that I'm doing, every like head turn, every like movement that I'm doing with my arm or whatever, like she's like mirroring me. Like it's the exact same thing.
Wow.
And God kind of like brings to my mind, like, that is you. That's you standing next to you. And I was like, what the heck? Like, what do you mean? And so, hold up. And so I sit down, worship ends, and I sit down and I listen to the preaching. And in the preaching, our pastor preaches about the little girl that Jesus resurrects. And I was like, what? Hold on. You just showed me a little girl. And it's the verse where Jesus says, she was not dead. She was asleep.
Oof.
And that was like, what? Like, I know you're trying to tell me something, but what do you mean? Like, I just couldn't comprehend it. And I texted Lily right away. I was like, Lily, I need your help. Like, I don't know what to do with this information. And I wrote it all down. I had like a little journal there so I wouldn't like forget every detail. And I shared it with Lily. So we were just kind of like, you know, she's helping me kind of grasp the concept, like process it. And I was like, okay, so that kind of stuck with me. Fast forward to youth conference. It's the last session of the conference. I am on the floor, a complete mess. Snot running down my face. My makeup is gone. Like, I'm a mess on the floor, and the song was Yo Te Amo. And it's just over and over again, like, I love you, and I love you. And I was just hit with, like, overwhelming love.
Oof.
And I was crying because it was just so overwhelming, you know? And God brings to me another vision. My eyes are closed. I'm on the floor, head down, knees down, and God brings to me another vision. And it's me. I can see myself walking down the aisle. I'm wearing a white dress. I have a bouquet in my hands, and I'm walking down the aisle. And I couldn't really see, like, I can't really make a full picture of what I saw of standing at the end of the aisle, but it looked like my dad. It looked like my dad, but I couldn't really see his face, but it looked like my dad. And so I'm walking like it's my wedding day, and then the vision like changes perspective. And so now it's not a first person point of view, but it's like a third person point of view where I can see myself walking down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's me as a little girl.
Oof.
It's me as a little girl in my white flower girl dress walking down the aisle to my dad at the end of the aisle. And the message that I received was like, I love you because you're my daughter.
Oof.
Not because you gave me anything. Not because
You can do anything.
you can do anything, but because you are a little girl. You are my little girl who
That's
can
good.
barely hobble down the aisle to me, your father. And I don't need any other reason to love you. I love you because you're my daughter.
That's good.
And that completely wrecked me and changed my whole perspective of not just worship, but just my whole relationship with the Lord. And that is what completely transformed my worship, because I was able to understand of like, there is nothing I could ever do to earn God's love, but I'm going to accept it. I'm going to learn how to be a daughter. I'm going to learn how to be loved by my father. And that is what has changed my worship. And that's why I worship. I worship because God is my father and he loves me and I love him.
That's so good.
Thank you, Abby. That was wonderful.
Oh my gosh, Abby. You chills, bro. Chills.
The Lord is so good.
Chills. I'm going to share why I worship real quick, just because it's like right fresh. Obviously, I worship because he healed Natalie. That's why I said yes to the worship team. In my insecurity, in my low self-esteem of music, of low self-esteem of untalentedness. But God's showed me so many stories of he takes like the most
unqualified,
like the lowest of the low.
Yeah.
And he chooses those people to do works for him.
Yeah.
Because they need him.
Because they need him, you know? So I was like, okay, God, I don't know why singing, and I don't know why, you know, but I'm going to do it because you're telling me to do it and I want to be obedient. I have a feeling, and I've always said this, I have a feeling that it's like planting seeds for the next generation for my sons, Alec and Angelo. I think that's why. I don't know. I'm literally going, time will tell. I'm literally walking by faith, but it's something that I now have grown to love, is walking by faith and saying yes to him. As long as it's him,
right?
Saying yes to him.
Yeah.
Every single step. He's blessed my family and I in so many ways. Which is funny because a lot of people think that blessed automatically means money. And let me tell you, not even.
Yeah.
I'd rather live a very humble life full of love than a very wealthy life in a shell of a mansion that no one loves you.
Yeah.
And, you know, so anyway, he healed my wife. I said yes automatically. He's been so good, the obedience. But as I remember, it was a Sunday, and I still have the text from Edna because she was having me record myself. And then
when you were like first leading.
Yeah, when I first started to lead songs, which was about a year after I just was singing in the Northeast team, and I would record. And I still have the text that says, "Hey, Anna, you know what? Can I just be in the coro? Can I? Because I don't want to lead. I don't feel qualified, dude. Like, pick someone better, dude. I don't want to. I'm embarrassed, you know, because I'm like, I'm not good. And it was just my own self-image. Maybe it was the enemy whispering that in my ear, which now I know that it was. God has given me confidence, and now God has slowly been showing me that, dude, I put something in you. Yeah. You just need to sharpen the sword, right? So that's a work in progress. I have once a week lessons with my teacher here. So the sword is being sharpened. But that's why I worship, man. God is so good. Basically, why do I worship? How can I not?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I'm answering the question. Why do I worship? How can I not worship?
Yeah.
Look at how amazing he's been.
Yeah.
Look at the kids that I have. And I'm not saying that in I hope that's not taken
In
the
a bragging way.
Yeah, no, dude. I'm
You're
like,
just
oh my
grateful.
gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so dude, there it is.
Just grateful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Gratitude. My favorite song on the planet, Gratitude. I can listen to that thing over and over because it's exactly how I feel.
All my words fall short.
Yeah.
I've got nothing new. How can I express all my gratitude?
I know.
Bring out the guitar.
I could sing this song. I know, I'm looking at it right now. I am going to learn it. But he says, I can sing these songs. I've got nothing new. Like, basically, like, all I can do is throw out my hands and praise you again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Because all that I have is this hallelujah. Like,
That's all I have.
That's all I have. That's why one of my favorite Christmas songs is Little Drummer
The
Boy.
Little Drummer Boy.
El tambor, niño
It's
el
all-
El Niño
tambor.
del Tambor.
Yeah. Because he's like, all I have is this drum.
Yeah. You know
All
what?
of me is all I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like today's sermon, he had mentioned, he was saying like, what do you have in your hand? You know?
Mm.
And you have a mic.
That's it, you know?
Use it.
And then that's where I was going with and then I'm going to shut up after this. Around the same date that I sent that text to Edna of like, you know what? I don't want to lead. Like, I'm not this and that. Somebody from the congregation in the Northeast said that they told me that they had a vision of me as a little boy up there.
Wow.
They're like, I saw you as a little boy, and it was like I saw you through God's eyes. I was just sitting there as a proud father.
Oh my gosh.
I love that.
That's good.
Like, okay. God's good, dude. How can I not?
I love that.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
It was so deep.
There's no rush.
Because I've never I never heard that
Oh,
That's right.
from my earth dad.
mm-hmm.
Right.
So after hearing that, I'm like, God, if this makes you proud,
Ugh.
I'm gonna do it.
Amen.
I'm in
Yeah.
all day, every day,
Yeah.
Thank
for
you.
the rest of my life.
Thank you.
And
Lord.
for all eternity.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That's so vulnerable. I love that. It's powerful.
Oh.
Just
Yeah, thank
threw
you
him
for
a
sharing
Kleenex.
that.
She threw me a roll of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very powerful. It's powerful to know that, you know, this worship leader that you see on Sundays that has a beautiful family and is, you know,
That they're not perfect.
yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Your story, Lily?
The Lord delights in your song. And now you delight in all of his love.
That I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my story, I feel like it's a little bit of like everything you guys have said, right? I worship. I am part of the worship team because God won't let me quit. I have tried 3 times.
so many conversations about that.
We have tried
3 times.
We're being honest. Everyone's
Yeah.
bearing their soul, right?
I'm like, I remember receiving a text from
We're
Art.
being
I remember receiving a
vulnerable.
text from you.
Oh, yeah.
There's power in vulnerability.
I'm like, get it
so-
together.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on the same vulnerable, honest, open, and transparent train.
Let's go.
Keeping it hot. Keeping it hot. So I have literally tried to quit 3 times, and I have not been allowed to. Each story is quite entertaining.
Oh, wow.
The first time that I tried to quit, I was being It was a mercy. I was going through this process where I didn't want to be on stage. Like, that God was like, I have you here because I want you here. Like, that was kind of the answer I felt like he was telling me when I was like, Lord, why did you let this whole surprise audition, unplanned thing happen? Like, what? I'm good in that little room serving and organizing things where nobody can see me, you know? And he's like, well, it's because that's where I want you. And I'm like, you want me to do what, where, in front of who? You know, that was kind of my reaction. Yeah, I was like, the way that I worship up there, I can worship from my little chair down here. Like, I'm good. Why I gotta go up there? And I start going to practice. You know, I start meeting people and hanging out with, you know, the crew, and we would practice on the weekends and all that stuff. And amazing, talented musicians, amazing, talented vocalists. And I started noticing things that reminded me of past situations that I've been in where I felt non-included, rejected, kind of an outcast. And I thrive in solitude. And one of the biggest things God has worked on in my heart is that he shows up in community, just like he shows up with me by myself at my house, in my room, you know, having conversations with him or reading the word. He also shows up in community. We're not meant to be alone. And that's probably one of the things that I've grown in the most, is just loving people, allowing them to love me, and staying in tensions with people and stuff like that. So I notice these behavior patterns that I do not like. And trying to be loving, I try to overlook them. I try to not call anything out, just kind of do my thing on my own. And a couple of events happened where I was like, I don't want to be on this worship team because I don't agree with the way this person is treating people, or I don't agree with the attitude that this person has or that other person has, or, you know, some of the words or the entitlements that I'm seeing, or, you know, it's just normal. Again, nobody has a perfect family. And if church is supposed to be family 2.0, there's going to be dysfunction. There's going to be tensions. There's going to be character clashes and things that need to be talked about. And of course, I'm not going to agree with everything, right? So it was this emotional maturity thing that God was working through my heart, where he's like, I need to make sure you understand who you're doing this for. This isn't so you can be part of a group you want to be a part of. This isn't so you can seek validation and approval from a specific set of people. And he allowed me to go through this process where, like, I tried boarding myself up the way I did before I met Jesus, and protecting myself emotionally to not be emotionally invested in people. And that's not how you love people, right? To me, having healthy personal boundaries means that I can come as I am. And if there is an issue between us that we need to talk about, again, I'm a person that loves to set a table and let's get on the same side and have a conversation. I don't like to exclude people or, you know, be
passive aggressive,
cruel, passive aggressive, because I can be aggressive. And I didn't like that person I was before, with that cold heart and aggressive and apathetic. Yeah. So I go through this process, and I feel like it was kind of when I first started with the Lord, where he had to break down these really cold pieces of my heart and get close to people. And I got close to people and I saw things I didn't like. And it broke my heart. And there were a few letdowns I had with some of the people, and again, me being someone that's super introverted, that, you know, it broke my heart. And I had to go through that process of like, Lord, why do you want me here if I'm hurting? Like, I know you're not cruel and you don't want me to hurt. So why am I here? And it was very similar to what you said, where you were like, I put something in you and there's a reason for all of this. And since I had learned to trust the Lord back there when I first started with him, that took me so much out of me, I was like, okay, I can trust you. So that was the first time I tried to quit. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to watch you be mean to people. I'm not going to watch you be cruel. Like, I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this. And God's like, I need you there. So I was like, oh, okay, fine. The second time.
If you say so.
Right. So the first time it was just like me and the Lord, right? And the second time, we had a training again. It was like somebody that came from out of state or out of the country, I don't remember. And he was just teaching some concepts about worship. You know, he was on the keyboard, and we were actually talking about prophetic worship. And, you know, there's a process with prophetic worship where you have a plan and you properly prepare for that plan. And you have these spontaneous moments where God's like, we're not going to sing that song. We're going to sing this one.
Yeah.
Or you're going to sing and then you're going to talk this during the song or after the song or while we do a repraise or the chorus or the bridge again, right? So it was this great training. It was amazing. But I didn't feel like I was contributing. There was different leadership and I just felt alone. And I was like, why am I here? So I wanted to go back to my comfort of if I can worship you from stage, I can worship you from down here. I've been doing this, right? And I went that day and I said, I'm quitting. I'm talking to the leaders and I'm done, right? I'm going to be like, y'all were great. Okay, bye, you know? And the guy that came for the training, after the whole thing was done, comes up to me and he says, I need you to know something. And he said it in Spanish, right? And I'm like, hi, I'm Lily. Like, I have no idea who you are. Why are you telling me these things, right? And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll listen to you. And he goes, I need you to know something. And I was like, okay. He says, right now that I was praying as we were getting done, he's like, we spoke about prophetic worship. I was like, yeah, I was here. You know, it was great. Thank you. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I was like, okay. He goes, I was drawn to you as you were praying at the end, you know, while I was praying for everyone and, you know, we were finishing up. I said, what do you mean? He goes, the Lord just kind of like highlighted you. And so I said, okay, Lord, why am I paying attention to this girl that's in the corner here? And that the Lord told him, he's like, because I delight when she gets uncomfortable and comes up to sing for me.
Oh my God.
So the day I said, I'm quitting, we have this training and I was like, I'm going to be polite and wait till everybody's done.
Yeah.
And you know how when you're a leader of anything, you know, people are like, hey, you got people talking. And I was just waiting for the leaders to be available so I could deliver my news. Had my speech ready. And this guy just comes over and he's like, I need you to understand that God said he delights in you when you go up there against your comfort and sing for him.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, all right, thank you.
But I want to quit.
I was like, thanks, man. So he kind of shocked me, you know, it was very shocking. I'm a person that has learned how try not to react in the moment because my reactions previously had been very angry and things like that. So I take it and I told him, I was like, okay, I receive your word. Thank you, you know? And I'm sitting there and I was actually going to take Abby home that day. And I take her home. We got done, take her home. I didn't say anything to the leaders. I walked out. We went home. Drop Abby off. And I'm on my way home. And I had to pull over on the freeway because I started having these like a little movie playing in my head.
God movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like a movie playing in my head and there was a little girl that was running through a field.
Oh my God.
And I mean, it's like the typical, you know, like this really cute story in a movie, right? And you, little girl with, you know, cute hair and a little dress and she's running and she's in
those
a field.
allergy commercials.
Exactly. Like
Side effects include death.
Gosh, yes.
I'm sorry.
And I'm like, what is happening right now, right?
Yeah.
And so I see this in my head and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, wait, you're driving. You know, my logical brain kicks in right away. And I'm like, wait, you're driving. And then I just start having this joy come over me. And I see it again. And at this point, I'm like, I need to pull over. So I pulled over. I got off the highway and I just pulled over. I'm in my car. And it's just this movie of a little girl running and she's twirling and she's having the most amazing time. You know, she's just being a kid, being playful and delighting in what she's doing. And then there's this dad. And he kneels down and he opens his arms and she's like, you know, and she runs to him and she runs to him and he picks her up and they twirl together and they just twirl and laugh and they run after each other. There is a delightful beauty of a father and a daughter delighting in each other's presence, of a father having the time to stop and delight in his baby girl. and a baby girl feeling safe and free and full of all who she is, knowing that time could stop, the world could end, but she's there and she is happy and delighted. And I'm like, why are you showing me this? This feels amazing. And he's like, that's what I feel when you sing to me. And in my life, these tears are tears of joy because I'm so grateful. I have known pain.
Give it the toilet paper.
I have known sorrow. I was a little girl that grew up way too fast. I was a little girl that wasn't really good at playing. It was hard for me to give up control. It was hard for me to give God my anger. I was like, this anger has protected me for so long, and you want me to trust a God that I don't see and don't know. So doing that so many years ago kind of put me in this spot where he's like, I delight. And that was the day that I didn't care where I was, who was asking me to do it. If I was sitting down, if I was in my bed, if I was in the car, if I was at work. And that happened to me at work one time. I was singing at work.
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom. I thought I was alone. It was so echoey and pretty. I was like, I'm going to practice. And I sang I have no idea what I was singing. And I come out and there's someone bawling at the sink.
Yeah.
And she's like, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. Washing my hands. And she's just like, I needed that today. Okay. And she just walks out. I mean, you're talking a corporate building, huge employer. And I'm like, all right, So those little things started to make sense. Those little things of you need to know who this is for.
Wow.
So that was the second time I tried to go.
We ain't even the third time.
We're not done, guys. We're not done.
Yeah. So as you can see, I've got trust issues that God has been so patient with me with.
Come on.
And just delightful and fathering and loving and mothering as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's just so merciful that way. Yeah. So the last and final time that I tried to quit, I was very frustrated about something or someone. Anyway, I was frustrated. I was at, I think we were all together singing that day as well. And I was like, I'm staying after service and that's it. That's it. I'm done. Like, I was done. I was having a day. I was in a mood. I don't even remember. And I was like, I am done. And we still needed to sing for second service. So it's pretty empty. And I was like, okay, I can be here and I can serve one more time. And then, that's it. Like, I am done. So second service rolls in, we start worshiping. And you know how there's a break sometimes where like there's a little video or a testimony and then we have one more song?
Yeah.
It was like that little interlude. And so I think Art and I were like kind of in the back and we were getting water and we were just kind of hanging out and waiting for the next song. And in that moment, as we're walking up, I just gently hear the voice of the Lord. And he says, I want you to see what happens. And I'm like, Akaniho. I'm sorry, what? You want me to see what happens when what? When who does what? I don't get it. Right? And I'm like, okay, I don't know who that was for, Lord, but I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want from me. So we start singing, and I just keep thinking that. I want you to see what happens. I want you to see what happens. Okay. And I was not leading, but it was a song where there's a very big chunk of break of just music. And I remember that day, I started like just.
I remember that day. Oh my goodness.
I just started, like, it was the first time I did prophetic worship. I was just singing over. I felt something in the room. And it was kind of a mix between like what my panic attacks and anxiety used to feel like. But then there was this tension of like fighting against it. And I was like, oh, I know what this is. And because I've gone through it and I worshiped my way through the last time I had a panic attack, I was like, okay, I got this. And in that interlude, I just started going off. And I don't even remember what I sang. I don't remember what I said. But the whole time while I was singing and I was talking, in my head, every time I would start talking, there was this like armor. There was like two wings that would come up behind me in armor as like a protection. And I was like, okay, that's beautiful. I'm not sure what that is. And then the whole thing finishes and I'm sitting there and the sermon's going on. And then I was like, what did you mean? And I asked God, I was like, what did you mean? You wanted me to see what happens. I was like, what happened? And then he's like, when you're obedient in your worship, I move. So I obeyed the feeling I got. Tension, music, speak against it, use your voice as a weapon. Whatever needed to happen, happened. God was the one that obviously did it, but I obeyed. And I was like, oh. I was like, you can do that with anyone here. And he's like, you're right, but I chose you. So will you choose me? Will you choose to obey me? And I was like, yeah. And that one was more of a like, yes. It was like a resolute, like, come hell or high water. You can come criticize me. You can, whatever. The world could end tomorrow and my ability to worship can be torn from me. But my soul will cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Right? Just like the word says, if we don't do it, the rocks are going to say it. So I volunteer as tribute. Right?
That's right.
That's literally why. And I remembered back that day that the first times I started going back to church, when I started to work on my relationship with God, on how angry I was after everything that had happened in my life. I hated when people would say stuff like, God loves you, keep coming. And I wanted to punch those people in the face, right? Because I was very hurt. I had a lot of anger. I was very hurt. But I remember sitting in the back and listening to the worship. And my body had been through so much turmoil, so much pain, that it was like taking the best pain reliever that no drug, no alcohol, no psychedelic, nothing could give me. That release and that peace, that wave of just be. And that's what he reminded me of that day, where he was like, this is how far we've come. To where you didn't want to have anything to do with me. And the only thing that you could break through that apathetic, cold heart was the worship. And my body was like, oh, I need this relief, right? So that's why I worship. Because I can't not. I can't not. Yeah.
How can you not?
Yeah. I'm grateful. I can't go without it anymore. I just can't. So.
It's my favorite thing in the It's my favorite thing in the week, dude. Every Sunday morning, I'm like, yes. Prepping for Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm so emotional right now.
No, it's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. Hold on, let me compose myself.
It's okay. I just wanted to say one last thing that came to my mind. It's really hard to settle for a phony when you've experienced authentic love. It is so hard to settle for something cheap and phony or a frivolous emotion of an excited worshiper or praiser or a great soloist on a guitar when the heart's not there and the connection to the Lord is not there, when that's not an offering and a sacrifice of the heart that connects you to the Father. It's so easy to tell the phony from the authentic when you've experienced the authentic. And I just won't settle anymore. Yeah. Because I can't wait till Sunday. Right? Because I need it for every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just, with all of you, I was crying. Like, everyone was sharing their story, and I was just weeping softly in the background. I just wanted to, I'm emotional, like, out of gratitude. Just because, like, all of us come from such different backgrounds, such different stories.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we're together here today. And, like, we've all walked our walks. We've all gone through our own processes when it comes to worship and just our relationships with the Lord. And I'm just very, I'm just very thankful that the Lord put us all together and that we've all walked through it together. And it's been a pleasure and an honor for me to be a part of your stories and for you all to be a part of my stories, because I like envision like us being in heaven and everyone else who is all part of our stories and we were part of their stories, like just praising God for all eternity and all the work, all of the difficult processes, all of the heartbreak, all of the anger, like it's all gonna be worth it. And it's worth it now.
Yeah.
You know, and we can experience that now and not just like wait till we get to heaven and then because then I'm gonna start worshiping in heaven. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. But yeah, I'm very, very grateful. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I'm
very grateful.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah.
Guys, I want to share real quick here a story of Paul and Silas. Because I feel like...
Stop it right now.
I feel like if you're listening, dude, and going through something hard in your life, you're like, I can't worship. How can I worship? How do you want me to worship if I'm going through X, Y, and Z? Keep in mind that Paul and Silas were already serving God and were already spreading the word. They get locked up. They get locked up in prison because they were spreading the gospel. So Acts 16:25. They're already in the prison. And it says, around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. And the other prisoners were listening. Suddenly, there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundations. All the doors immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. The jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open. He assumed the prisoners had escaped, so he drew his sword to kill himself. Pause. Why was he going to kill himself? Because back then, if you were guard and you lost your prisoner, you were going to get killed.
Your punishment
was death for that. So back here, now verse 28. But Paul shouted to him, "Stop, don't kill yourself. We are all here." The jailer called for lights and ran to the dungeon, fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, along with everyone in your household." They shared the word of the Lord with him and with all who lived in his household. Even at that hour of the night, the jailer cared for them and washed their wounds. Because before they were thrown in jail, they were beat up bad. Then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. He brought them into his house and set a meal before them. And he and his entire household rejoiced because they all believed in God. So look, and this is just me sharing from my heart, man. If you're listening and you're going through something tough, you're not gonna that a lot of times you're not gonna understand what's happening in that moment. But from this story, what I gather, I'm not a pastor, I'm not some theologian. I'm just telling you, maybe you just need to worship to shake that mental prison or the prison that you're going through, and God will reveal himself at that point. Because that's how I felt. I questioned God. I was like, why Natalie? Why this? Why did it come back? You were already healed and this and that. And to you, when you asked me, Rocio, was that worship to you? Now I can see, dang, that was worship.
Yeah.
So just worship. Sometimes the answer is just worship.
It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what it sounds like.
That's right.
The story of the prison is really beautiful because I not only look at it as like the people who are in there, but the prison itself, like structure made for imprisonment needed to be stripped down to its foundation for there to be life and communion. And like, isn't that worship?
Yeah. Oof. Come on, dude.
That's what God likes to do. He likes to take things and turn them upside down. Take a prison and make it communion and community and freedom.
Which is funny because our campus right now used to be
Yeah.
a place where people got very drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
God tells his spiritual dad jokes too. But listen,
Lots of them.
Love it. Love it.
You know what? Something that I got like a visual of, and I was actually there when it happened. So like it just kind of like I remembered when you were sharing that. I went to a missions trip to Africa. I won't say where. I'm not sure if anyone will ever listen in the African government, so I'm not gonna put names or give a city or anything. But it was 99.9% Muslim, so like there was very few. We had to go within like how they dress. Women are not allowed to be dressed like
Follow
we
their
are
rules.
used to here in America. And I remember this one time they invited us to the beach. It was a class of women who were learning English. And the teacher is a believer. And there was someone there in the class that was also a believer, but nobody knew it. So like she couldn't really like reveal it because she was pretty involved within the school. And I remember we ate and we had a great time. And we went and we were walking the beach, right? We were like, oh, we're going to pick up some shells, take them with us or whatever. And so we're doing that and we're all having a great time. And I feel the presence of God like hardcore. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, who is it? Who is it? So I'm kind of observing. And there's this woman, kind of the woman that was in our group. She was not from that part of Africa. She was Egyptian. So she had like her own dialect, but she also knew the dialect from Africa. And I get closer to her and she's singing in her Egyptian language. And like, I'm weeping at this point because I feel the Holy Spirit, right? And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm crying on the beach in Africa, like overseas. What's going on? And she was singing, like she was worshiping in her Egyptian language. And I will carry that for the rest of my life. Like,
but in her native tongue.
In her native tongue.
She would have
Correct.
undergone
imprisonment. Correct. If she would have sung it in an African dialect that somebody understood, or in French, because French was like a common language in that city.
Right.
It was the most beautiful thing that I've ever felt, that I've seen. Like, ooh. So that's what it reminded me of, just because like that's literally, you're walking into a spiritual prison because you will get thrown into jail or killed if someone knows that you follow Jesus and that you believe in God and that he's the Messiah, right? Like all those things. It's very specific. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, ooh. Yeah.
It's a good
beautiful.
correlation.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, that was a lot.
guys, this is one of the best podcasts we've recorded yet. This is episode 17.
Whoa.
But it's the best, and I'm not rushing it, bro. Like this is too good. And if you want to stop listening, stop. That's you.
Stop, go to sleep.
That's you.
Take a break,
but
press pause.
God's got a word for you, man. God, I hope you've been paying attention, dude. Like, oof. I had prepped of like how God's used worship against enemies and stuff like this. And, I'm not going to beat you with a Bible here through your speakers, but man, guys, it's just, worship is just, God has a special assignment and design for worship. You know what's funny? What comes to mind is, I've heard of several stories where witches and warlocks come into our church or stand outside of our campus,
Right.
trying to curse us, trying to put spiritual bindings over us and put principalities against us.
Right.
But y'all, we've all read Revelation. We know who wins this game. We already know who won. So it's so fun. It's just funny to me to think that, like, all right, well, you could try, you could try all you want, but I already know the score.
I'd be like going outside. Can I hug you?
Yeah.
Come here.
Like, yo, you're in the wrong team, dude. Here, try my jersey.
Yeah.
Because you're on the losing team. And like he who is in me is greater than he who's in the world.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
God, like, you know that Satan had to ask God for permission, right?
Mm.
So if you're over there trying to, do stuff against true children of God, number one, you're wasting your time. And number two, I would just encourage you to really analyze, why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe, if you're angry, it's okay. If you went through something that made you want to turn against God, that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Be honest, like Lily was saying, like, because God already knows what's on your heart, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But worship is just so special, man. And I want to thank you guys, man, for coming, like for, being willing. I know it was a tough journey, like you guys said, maybe through this week. I know, Abby, I had actually asked you like a month ago, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Been a while ago.
It's been a while.
Several weeks ago.
It's been a while, but it's all for a reason. We're here for a reason, like Abby said. Like, it's so cool. I want to thank you guys. This is just personally me. Thank you guys, just for believing in me, for being like some of my biggest cheerleaders. Other than that, like, you sound great, babe. Don't worry. You're good. You're good. I'm like, you're my wife. You're supposed to say that. But anyways, thank you guys. And the floor is open, dude. Is there, you guys can share whatever you want.
I have two things I want to share, and then I'll just be quiet just because I'm like, I really want to say this.
Do it.
But it's not me. It's like I'm referencing. Just for reference, I have like 5 books that I brought. So I'm going to share this first one, and then I'll try to find the other one. When we were talking about neediness and like being desperate, I can say I don't like those 2 words, right? Like a lot of like, oh, he's desperate or she's desperate, right? You quickly think, and it's like
negative connotation.
Right. Exactly. Negative. Where like God, something that he's been doing within me is like reframing so many words like pressure or like neediness or desperation. And this is also from a different book, but it's the devotionals that the Cageless Birds has. So this is volume 2, just so I can reference my sources. If my friend Ale is listening to this, she would be very proud.
Yes.
Quoting my sources here. So his name is J.D. Gravitt, and he's part of the Cageless Birds ministry. And he says, "My neediness for God is my honor and not my shame." So I'll say that one more time. My neediness for God. How much I need God. The most needy way of that I can like come to God is my honor and not my shame.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm just going to drop that one there. And then
you know what though? I like that because I feel like that was where I was at with that whole second illustration of like a dad and the little girl, right? Because I had just grown so cold. The messaging, right? The messaging I had received to that point was, I can't rely on everyone. I have to do things myself. I have to be self-reliant. I have to pull myself up from my bootstraps and get things done. I'm not sure why I started talking country, but yeah, that's how it came out. So neediness to me was weakness. Oof. Neediness, desperation is weak. It is being in a power dynamic where I lose. And that may have been my experience before. Right. But that is not the experience with my Holy Father. Right. Now. So that was the reparenting. That's not my experience now.
That's right.
So I love that. Thank you. Yeah. That's good.
And I want to share just one more thing, and then I'm done. It's by A.W. Tozer. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, you are.
Yes. It says, "We should revel in the joy of believing that God is the sum of all patience and the true essence of kindly goodwill. We please him most, not by frantically trying to make ourselves good, but by throwing ourselves into his arms with all our imperfections and believing that he understands everything and loves us still."
Oh my gosh, bro.
That's where I feel I felt that I was frantically trying to bring together some good works, good deeds, trying to be a good example. and I just needed him.
And I believe the scripture says that they are but dirty rags.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that goes against the messaging we are bombarded with every day. Of what have you done? Who are you? What have you achieved?
What do you have to
what are
offer?
you? Exactly.
Mm.
That transactional relationship that we're up here. Where are you? Are you down there? Have you done this? Have you done enough? Have you? Right?
Yeah. Do you measure up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you qualified? And the devotional that goes with that saying, or the hymn quote, like this quote that I just shared, it says, "This is the best of good news. God loves us for ourselves. He values our love more than he values galaxies of new created worlds."
Which he can just sing into existence.
You're welcome. He remembers our frame and knows that we are dust. The God we love may sometimes chasten us. It is true. But even this he does with a smile, the proud, tender smile of a father who is bursting with pleasure over an imperfect but promising son who is coming every day to look more and more like the one whose child he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's from the journal from the retreat I went to. A wholehearted retreat. Shout out to the Cage's Birds one more time. Okay. That's all I wanted to share.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to just say to everybody that goes to church, to everybody that doesn't go to church or hasn't gone because they've been hurt or chose not to because they feel they won't fit in or they got to get their life together or put on a mask or, put things in order before I go. If I go a total mess, I'm going to be struck down by lightning, which is what I hear a lot of people say, right? I just want to say that not everyone that I first encountered when I started going to church again was really come as you are. But that you don't need everybody to be. Just come for that.
Yeah.
Come for the fact that everyone under the sound of our voices that has the ability to listen to this recording in real time or for as long as it's digitally available has the same access we have to God incarnated, to a God that chose to humble himself, to live the human experience and had the power to smite and to say no and to defeat his enemies in the blink of an eye. But he chose it for you.
Yeah.
It's worth risking being amongst imperfect people. It is worth risking looking like an idiot at church on Sunday when you feel like you just want to jump or you want to put your hands up or you want to kneel down and you want to surrender what that tough thing that you're going through, or you want to say thank you for what you just went through, that you're still intact and that there is a tomorrow after that hard day or that you got what you were praying for. Risk it. Risk looking like a fool. Risk looking like no one else to everyone that's been at church and maybe only raises their hands because it's what we're supposed to do. Or that it's been a while because you go to church and you're like, oh, worship wasn't that great today. You went for the wrong reason. Worship was an open opportunity. It was a door. We are inviting you in as worshipers to come and be delighted in and to delight in. So let's just put our old habits down, whatever they are, whether we think we have to be perfect or whether we're supposed to look like someone or do a specific thing. Let's put them down and let's just come to the table to a God that chose you over his own life to just be curious and ask, what do you want from me? How do you love me? What do you have for me? What am I worth to you? Yeah. Just want to encourage you. And I love you. I hope I can meet you and give you a hug.
The last point that I want to share is that I'm currently reading Joshua. That's what I'm studying right now. So I just finished the part where they're crossing the Jordan River. And I mean, it's a famous story. I think lots of people know this story, but there's just something in this, like towards the end of when they're crossing the Jordan, where I never really noticed that, and I thought it was really interesting while I was studying it. So, at this point, the Levitical priests were carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and they were crossing the Jordan. The river stops. You know, the Israelites were able to pass over. So Joshua chapter 4, verse 14, right? So, on that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel as they stood in awe of him, just as they had stood in awe of Moses all the days of his life. So everyone had finished passing over, and and it says, and verse 15, and the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests bearing the ark of the testimony to come up out of the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests to come up out of the Jordan, and when the priests bearing the ark of the covenant of the Lord came up from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up on a high ground, the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed all its banks as before. So what I want to point out with that part of the story is that everyone had passed over already.
Mm-hmm.
The Levitical priest's mission was over. They had done as the Lord commanded, but they didn't get out of the water.
Mm-mm.
They stayed in the water. And I think this really challenges me personally as a worshiper of like, whatever the Lord commands me to do, after I do it, am I going to stay and delight in his presence? You know, like even after I've done the deed, even after I've done the job, even after I've done the mission, whatever task it is that the Lord has commanded me to do, like this also encourages me to like stay in the water. Like you don't have to leave just because you finished. You don't have to leave just because worship is over. You don't have to leave the presence just because you left church.
No.
You know what I mean? And that challenges me so much because I think about like when in a Sunday when worship is over, like you can still stay in his presence, you can still stay in his water, and just because there's a certain timeline and the certain run sheet and the way that Sunday flows doesn't mean that God is going to conform to that. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's so good.
And that's what challenges me. Of not challenge it in a like a bad way, in a hard way, but like that I want to stay in the presence as long as I can. As long as God grants me so with his presence, I will choose to stay in the water.
Yeah.
Until he tells me, okay, you can get out now.
And that takes fostering. Like you foster that relationship to stay in it. Right?
And that's such obedience.
Yes. Because that water would not have stopped for that people, that village of people, to cross on dry land if those Levites had not said yes to their assignment.
Right.
The river didn't stop when they got there. The water stopped when they stepped in. It took faith. It took, I gotta step into a rushing river.
Waters, yeah.
Exactly. I have to step in with the presence with me. I have to be with the ark. If they had stepped in on their own without the ark, that I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have been.
They would have been good. Yeah.
Right. But they were in submission. They were with the presence, and they obeyed.
They were in submission. That took trust in God, but also trust in God with the people that they were with their team of carrying the ark. Which is, as in a worship team, you have to trust each other. You have, because you are carrying the ark. It's not whoever's leading the song. It's not whoever set the sequence. It's not whoever's putting the words on the screen. Like you are the team that is carrying the ark. And it takes trust individually, trust that God is going to stop the waters, that God is going to move, but also trust that God has placed everyone in the team, no matter what your feelings are about them, that God has put everyone in that team for a reason.
We all have a purpose, absolutely.
And you need to trust.
Yeah.
Trust the team that God has placed.
That's good. I love that.
Woo. Ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
What a podcast, bro. We're 3 hours deep now.
I know. I realized that. Like halfway in.
We will not be here all week, but thank you, everyone.
Halfway in, I was like, this is really long.
But you know what's cool is that, and in full transparency, with if you're listening, when Nat and I get together with this group here, 3 hours seems like 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, combos are always so good, so deep, so growthful. That's not even a word, but
Now it is.
Nourishing. They're nourishing.
they're nourishing.
Growthful is better.
They're vitamin full.
Vitamin full.
They're amazing, man.
Vitamin
We
full.
always leave better
Yeah.
because we hung out with these guys here. So, I mean,
We need each other.
it was just so good. So good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Give your jail, your prison, your battle to God. Worship your way out of it. And God, you'll be surprised how God answers your prayers. Just saying. Any last thoughts, anybody?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
That's it, because we're going to spend another 3 hours.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
This will be a 6-hour podcast.
Thank you and good night.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening, man. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that, you really grew, and that we just encourage you that little much to take one step into that river. Take just one little step closer to God
And see what happens.
and see what happens. See how he opens that sea for you.
Stay curious. Yeah.
Love you guys. Take care. Drop us a shout and a DM. See what you like. See which, see what hits you.
Yeah.
God bless you. We love you. Take care. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Good day. Whatever.
Bye.